Block 2. Hey guys. Good day Char. She takes a seat. We need to discuss about having a student head. Ain said. Let's say who we want as the leader at the same time. Damon suggested. Sure. Alright. 3,2. 1. Charlotte. Char. Charlotte. Mabel. Ain. Damon and Mabel all nod in agreement while Charlotte was confused. So it's decided. Charlotte is now the leader. The headmistress came over earlier and we will present ourselves on stage and introduce ourselves. At the main hall, the four was on the stage with the headmistress. Greetings all, I have gathered you all to have a special announcement. As you can see behind me there are 3 students with a red uniform and 1 black. They are the student council. Isn't that Charlotte Alpheus? Ain. The Farquez twins. The 4 step up with microphones in their hands. I'm Mabel Farquez, a 4th year. Also known as your senior. I'm Damon Farquez, a 3rd year. Your junior. Ain, a sophomore. I'm Charlotte Alpheus, a 1st year. A freshman also known as the student council head. I'm still inexperienced but I will try my best to contribute as much as I can. The crowd applauds and they all head back to class. After class, the 4 scatter around the academy to see who is misbehaving. Charlotte was walking in the garden when she saw 2 male seniors bullying a 1st year. Hey, isn't that the head of the student council? The 1st year stared at Charlotte with fearful eyes. He was there when he witnessed Charlotte kill off those guards like flies. So, tell me, what are you doing to him? We just wanted money. Got a problem 1st year? Don't you know who I am? Yeah, the pathetic 1st year. Charlotte shakes her head in disappointment. Leave him alone. I don't have time to deal with you two. Eh? Are you commanding us? Charlotte moves and grabs one of the seniors' collar and pulls him close to her. Charlotte Death stares in the eye and lets go. He whispers to his buddy. Hey man, I just got chills from her. Let's get out of here. Both men retreated and ran off. Charlotte lent out a hand to the 1st year who got bullied. He grabbed her hand and got up. Thank you. You're welcome. If they bother you again, find me at my office. It's next to the headmistress's. Have a good day. You too. She waves to him and goes to check at the school clubs. Fortunately, she found the music room and found Houston and a few others sitting. Hey Charlotte, Houston exclaimed. Ah, hi. Come join us. I'm patrolling right now, so I don't think I can. It's just for a bit. I guess it can't be helped. Charlotte grabs a harp and sits down, playing an elegant melody. Estella used her free time to play the harp since it was Ezekiel's favorite instrument and he loved listening to Estella play. The people around Charlotte stared at her mesmerized by her skills. She was truly great at it. That's all for now. Have a great day guys. I need to get back. You too. Please come again, they say. Charlotte shoots them a soft smile and walks out of the music room, Ain leaning on the wall outside of the music room with his arms crossed against his chest. You play really well. Thanks. I see. You should play for me sometime too. Maybe when I have time. Their patrol ended and Charlotte went to her office to do her assignments. How many countries are there? They didn't write how many in the books I read. Charlotte brings her assignment to the Academy's library. The Elrod Kingdom, the Wing Knight Kingdom, the Dianli Kingdom. The 3 kingdoms are the most powerful kingdoms. There are also smaller kingdoms like the Dynasty Kingdom, the Avrak Kingdom, the Valentia Kingdom. There are 150 kingdoms spread across the whole world in total. It is said that the 2nd Prince of Elrod disappeared without a trace. The Imperial family will not disclose any information about the missing prince. Mysterious indeed, she mumbles to herself. Hey Char, what you reading mate? Mabel popped up from behind. Just history books. Charlotte closes the books and continues with her assignment. The student council is gonna have a picnic. Wanna join us Char? Sure, she says as she finishes all her assignment. It was already around 6 p.m. The students were supposed to get to the cafeteria and have dinner but the 4 students of the student council got a basket of food and picnic necessities and went to the garden. Damon had already set the picnic blanket on the grass. The scenery was a nice sight. I'm glad we decided to have a picnic, Charlotte says as she lays down the ham sandwiches on the picnic blanket. Ain pulls out a harp from behind his back. You said you would play the harp for me when you were free. Damn. Okay. Charlotte grabs the harp and places her fingers on the strings, stroking it and creating a melodic harmony. She finishes the song. They start a conversation as they ate the sandwiches. Char, How'd you get so good at playing the harp? Just a lot of practicing. What made you want to play the harp? Charlotte pauses for a second and they notice. Did I say something wrong? Ah, no. It's okay. Well, I only started playing the harp cause of someone. Although I can't remember anything about them. They were very special. I see. They stopped talking about the harp and changed the subject to avoid awkward tension. They all laughed and ate. Cheers to the student council. Cheers. They all raised their glass of champagne and drank. After they ate, they went back to their separate dorms. Charlotte closes the door and sees Houston on the couch. Hey Charlotte. You were great at playing the harp back there. Thanks. I'm quite exhausted. Good night. Night. Chapter 26. It's been months since that day. Finals week are coming up. The students of the student council have been getting along very well. The students in the academy have been respecting them. Hello class. As you all may know, finals week is just right around the corner, which is also next week. Monday will be history, Tuesday will be math, Wednesday will be language, Thursday will be SOAR training, and lastly for Friday will be MANA training. All the students felt anxious for finals, as it is said to be one of the hardest trials a student will face. Of course Charlotte didn't think much of it. Even if she did get a good score, she wouldn't mind eyes on her, as she has gotten used to it. Today's class was the only day that they had to attend class, as they had to study for the huge exam the upcoming week. When the classes finish, she went to the student council room, where she found the three looking frustrated and had an anxious aura around them. Why are you all so gloomy? Charlotte says as she takes a seat. Finals week, the three say in sync, staring dead in the eye at Charlotte. I don't think it would be that bad. Once our exam results get unveiled, we'll have a 3 months break. The academies of the continent's kingdoms are different from others. From February to October they will have to attend the academy unless there are special days or weeks that they can spend time off, a public holiday. As for November to January, they will be able to spend 3 months' time preparing for a new school year. Finals week is horrendous, they all say and nod in agreement. How bad is it? I shall explain. For the regular in-class subjects, they make us do 40 pages with 200 varieties of questions. Then for SOAR training they make us do terribly difficult obstacles. For MANA training we will have to do tasks depending on what MANA energy our instructors have taught us. You said you learned flame and growth energy, right? The teacher will make you burn and regrow the tree. Most likely the baobab tree, since it's the most fire resistant and it grows to nearly 100 feet tall. Charlotte stared at them in incredulity. She couldn't believe it. May I ask, what were your grades last year? They all shared the same, I'm a disappointment look. Ain started off. Surprisingly, I did pretty decent. I was the top of my grade. From all the 100 points each class I had gotten a good 410. Damon said second. I did above average, although SOAR training wasn't something I fancied. I had to stay in bed after some serious injuries. All my muscles were tensed and it was hard to move for weeks. I got a 390. Mabel finished. I did pretty okay. My MANA instructor last year was a bit sketchy. Mate was giving me a hard time. I got a 370. Well, I mean those are pretty good grades. ZUO Academy's grading system went like this: failing, 200, D:200 to 250, C:251 to 320, B:321 to 395, A:396 to 499, S:500. Barely anyone got A's. The S grade was made for people to try their hardest to achieve it. It was part of their motivation after all. Although nobody in history has ever gotten the S grade. Has anyone received the S grade? Sadly no. I see. Well, do you guys need help for finals? I can teach you all sorts of stuff. We do have a week break before finals to study. How about it? Shall we study together? Sharing information with one another is a nice way to bond and learn, isn't it? Sure, the three said to Charlotte. Let's start off with the basic subjects and we can work our way to SOAR training and MANA training. Tomorrow at the library at 7 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. The next day, they all gathered in the library. I invited Houston over because it seems that he has been struggling as well. They shared greetings and continued. Okay, Although I'm still a first year, I shall be your instructor for the whole week. We shall start with advanced history first. Charlotte was great at history since she's seen it all with her eyes. She was the greatest Teledevel after all. They didn't doubt her at all considering her full marks during midterms. Charlotte taught them 5,000 years of history and forced them to engrave important notes into their heads for hours. She asked them many questions. If she got them wrong, she would force them to memorize it till they got them right. If she was a professor, she'd be the strictest. The 3 students of the student council did decently while Houston fell a bit behind. It was alright though, as Charlotte didn't go easy on him either. Quit slacking. Finally, the day came to an end. The 4 students were exhausted by all the memorizing and went to the cafeteria to eat. Charlotte followed them. Some students saw how intense Charlotte was at teaching, even stricter than professors at the academy. Good work, guys. If you ever forget about what I taught you in the test, you won't see the light of day next time you meet me, Charlotte says as she puts on a soft smile. They were all afraid of her now, but they still ate and had conversations with her since she was their friend after all. The next 2 days Charlotte did the same and engraved math formulas and advanced, gracious words into their heads till it burned into their brains. Some of the students also decided to join Charlotte's extreme training and memorizing, and Charlotte welcomed them with open arms. The more the merrier, right, Charlotte? Don't you need time to study? Someone asked. As you know, when I teach people, I always have to be better than you all in the subject I'm teaching, right? Teaching you all is basically studying for me as I'm recalling what I've learned. If you really want to pass finals, you should memorize everything I've said. Her students all listened to her attentively for the rest of the hours while taking breaks to eat or quickly run to the bathroom. It was an exhausting 3 days, but the upcoming 2 days would be worse. Obstacle courses and mana training. It won't be easy for the students of Charlotte. They all went to sleep while mentally preparing themselves. Chapter 27. It was a Friday. Charlotte's students have all gathered up in their own arena ground to go through difficult obstacles. Hello all. I have gathered you all here today to go through extreme sword and obstacle training. As you can see, I've set up various amounts of obstacles. Give me 10 laps immediately. They all ran around the field 10 times as a warm-up. The students were exhausted after 5 but had to keep going or they would be punished. After the 10 laps they all looked flustered. They did basic leg and arm warm-ups to start. Now that we have done basic warm-ups, it's time for the real deal. I hope your stamina has risen, as this course will be a hell of a ride. I've prepared multiple jumping, swinging and dodging obstacles. If you fail the course halfway, you will have to redo it. Charlotte went through her own obstacle swiftly, demonstrating how to do it. Of course, Charlotte has set a timer when she was going through the course. Her record was 3 minutes around the whole course. The student council went one by one following the other students. Charlotte set a timer for each of them to see who would beat her. Surprisingly, Damon was the closest to beat Charlotte, the one who struggled the most last year on his sword training exam. Damon came closest to me with an astonishing 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Great job. Ain came second with a 4 minutes. Since this is Charlotte's training, I need all of you to finish in 3 minutes. If you can't, redo it, she commanded. All the students stared at her with helpless eyes. Do you want to score your finals or not? She questioned in a serious tone. They all nodded and put up with the extreme training. A few hours later they all managed to get a 3-minute time on the obstacle. It increased their capability of scoring a good grade. You all have done great. Shall we move on to mana training? They all nodded excited. Mana training was fun and exciting to them. I shall teach you all 5 magic elements as there are all 4 years gathered: growth, water, fire, air and healing. I will start with simple spells to more advanced spells. As you all already know, depending on your mana is how strong your spells can increase to. Of course, in our examinations I'm assuming that depending on our ranks we will have to go through different trials. I will teach you all different spells for every rank. She teaches the basics of the 5 elements, then moves up to more advanced spells. Let's move on to more advanced water, air and healing spells. Since I've taught you all the advanced fire and growth spells, water spells can be used to hydrate someone or use as an attack spell. Charlotte requests for them to take a step back and chants out a spell. A water dragon appears around Charlotte, swirling around her. The students became enchanted by the magical creature that formed from a hall of mana. This is the most advanced water spell known to mankind. Only a few people are able to master this technique. It takes years to build up trust with your water dragon and train it to attack. I first will teach you beginner advanced water spells. Starting off with water spikes. They do a good amount of damage and turn back into water once the damage is done. After she teaches them more advanced spells, she moved on with air spells. A ball of swirling wind appeared on the palm of Charlotte's hand, showcasing it to the students. Charlotte infuses more mana into the swirling wind and it became bigger, slowly become a tornado. She sucks it back into preventing it from causing any chaos. Students, as I showed you all, that is the most advanced air spell, a tornado. You can swirl your opponent in the air and hit them with a water spike, or you can use other spells like fire. Only use advanced spells when you're in danger and need to defeat a person fully. Do not overly use your mana. The students nod to Charlotte. Healing spells are the most simple of all the elements. Useful on trips if you get hurt anywhere. Charlotte grabs her blade and cuts herself, shocking everyone. Green particles glow around the wound, healing it. When you heal someone, you need to carry the will of wanting to help the person. The mana you should use is depending on how big the wound is. Would anyone like to try? Ain raises his hand and goes up to Charlotte. Charlotte cuts a bigger wound on accident. It hurt like hell, but she kept it in. Ain waves his hand around the wood and it instantly healed. His will of wanting to help Charlotte must be big. Whoa, it healed instantly. Great, thanks Ain. They both smile at each other. Ain sits back down and Charlotte continues, I have prepared injured animals that need healing from the vit as it was too packed. Please heal the animals and I will observe your progress. The students healed the animals with ease. Charlotte complimented them. You all did great. I hope you don't forget what you have learned from me the next week when it's the actual final exams. Shall we go celebrate this ending week of learning? Charlotte's students cheer and they go to the cafeteria. Charlotte ordered drinks to celebrate the week. Although she did warn them that they shouldn't have a big ego yet as they haven't gone through the actual exams. It was finally the weekends. The other students started studying rapidly and it became complete chaos at the academy. While Charlotte and her disciples were enjoying their weekend, they still did study regardless since it was gonna be the first day of finals soon. Their weekend was finally over. It was the first day of finals. Monday. History. Chapter 28. They have already been seated in separate chairs and tables. The professor has already cast a spell on them to prevent them from cheating. To Charlotte's surprise, the test was everything that she taught to her students. Hoping that they would ace this test. Tuesday, it was math. All the formulas were also taught by Charlotte. She had already memorized the equations for the test. All the formulas she taught her students were also engraved in her head. Wednesday, language. They had to write a 3,000-word essay in 2 hours. Luckily, Charlotte had taught them a lot of great sentences that could used in times like this. All the grammar lessons too. Charlotte had already finished her essay with her insane writing skills. Thursday. Now this was the start of a real challenge. They had the students go through the obstacles only knights would take. Of course, the course was definitely way more advanced for average students. Fear not, Charlotte has trained them more than this. Friday, the last day of the exam. Their prediction was correct. First years had to burn and regrow the baobab tree. It was almost 100 feet tall and it was really hard to grow back into a healthy tree. They did struggle but eventually got it. Charlotte took a big ball of flames to burn the tree. Regrowing it wasn't any easier though. She had to use a lot of mana to regrow it. It was successful, which was a good sign. She glanced at some of her students. They were also doing well. All the teaching paid off. Days after the examinations, the students were all anxious, but Charlotte had a gut feeling that they did good. If not, all her teaching would have went down the drain, which she didn't believe would. She trusted her students. After the day off class, the teachers announced that their grades had been distributed. The students all ran to check the school board. Surprisingly, all of Charlotte's students had gotten above 400. Even the professors were surprised from this news. That many people gained a score above 400? That wasn't all. Charlotte got an astonishing 500 points. It was the first time in history. The headmistress was as proud as ever. The professors asked the students what their secret was to their success for over 400 points. They all had shared the same answer: Professor Charlotte. The word spread all around the academy. It was heard from high and low that Charlotte has been teaching them all this knowledge. Students from different years were eager to learn from her. Although, since finals were already over, she refused as she wanted to enjoy her break. Charlotte at the student council room. Woohoo! Congrats on over 400 points, guys, especially Damon. You did absolutely great in the sword training exam, thank you. It's all thanks to you though. Shall we go celebrate with my other students? I don't see why not. The students of the student council head to the cafeteria where they were greeted by students of Charlotte. They all sat down and drank till their heart's content. Cheers to Charlotte, they all yelled. They all were on cloud 9 from their own results. The next day, the headmistress has called upon Charlotte to follow her up on the stage. The headmistress gives her speech. As you all know, finals week is over. I hope you all enjoy your break after today. You will finally be free and will be able to visit your family. Next off, I am proud of each and every one of you for getting good scores. This is a new record of people receiving points above 400. I'd also like you reward a certain somebody who have helped you open a new light and turned over a new leaf. Please welcome Charlotte Alpheus. Charlotte was shocked as she didn't expect a reward for teaching. She got beside the headmistress and the headmistress gave her a shining mana stone. It was one of the most expensive luxuries a person could have. The students cheered and wowed as they saw a mana stone in live action. It was a beautiful stone that glowed bright. They all applauded and were happy that class was finally over for a few months. Charlotte and Asher had decided to visit their home after months of not being there. They called a carriage and sat there silently till they got home. "Asher, my baby," Mother yelled, running up to him. She glanced at Charlotte with an awkward smile. She didn't think any of it though and went straight to the kitchen. "Hi guys," Charlotte, the staff and chefs exclaimed excitedly. "You're back from the academy? I haven't seen you since forever," one of the maids say. "Yeah, it's been so long. I'm glad to be back." Do you want some fresh food we prepared a while ago?" "Sure, I'm starving." The chef handed Charlotte a plate of freshly cooked beef Wellington. It looked delightful. The taste was the same. "Yum, you never fail to make delicious food," Charlotte says and smiles at the chef, finishing the meal and waving to them. Amelia jumps onto Charlotte, clinging onto her. "Oh my, hi Amelia. Long time no see." I was pretty down when I failed the entrance exams, but I'm glad you're back. I've seen you have somewhat matured." "I try. Father and Mother told me to become more like you." "Don't. You should do what you want. Just be respectful about it." "Okay." Charlotte was hanging in her room while sipping on some tea. It was nice to dress up once in a while without wearing her uniform. A maid came in to inform her, "Miss Charlotte, the Duke has requested for your presence." "What is it this time?" Charlotte walks to the Duke's office and sits. "So, the Prince of Wing Knight has offered your hand in marriage." "I refuse." "But." "No, I said, I refuse." Charlotte walked out of the room angrily without giving him a second to speak. "Ha! Marriage when I slaughtered your knights and threatened your father right in front of you." "I'm not a fool." Chapter 29. While Charlotte was walking out the Duke's office, a familiar face came by. The Crown Prince of Wing Knight, Louis. They made eye contact, Charlotte obviously looking displeased. "Why's he here?" Charlotte kept walking, avoiding him. Louis attempted to grab her arm but failed. He called out, "Wait." Charlotte paused and said, "I only met you for a brief moment. I don't plan on marrying you." "Good day." Charlotte walked to the garden to get fresh air. She saw a small girl under a tree. She had pastel pink hair and golden eyes. She looked upset. Charlotte pitied her and went up to her. She was adorable and looked around the age of 10. "Hi little girl. Anything wrong?" "My balloon I got from the Capitol got stuck in the tree." Charlotte saw a balloon of a dog and used Mana to lift it up from the tree to grab it. She returned the balloon to the little girl. She burst out of joy. "Thank you so much," she squealed. "You're welcome. Come sissy, let's have a chat." "Sure." They had a wonderful chat and a maid came up to us looking worried. "Isabella, I couldn't find you anywhere. You worried your parents." "Come on." "Thank you Miss Charlotte for taking care of her." "So her name's Isabella. Can Sissy come too?" "Sure, I'll follow you." Both girls followed the maid to Isabella's parents. She jumped to her parents with her arms wide open. Charlotte had recognized him. He was the King of Wing Knight. "That's his daughter?" I knew she looked familiar. Charlotte stared awkwardly at the family of 4. She gives a curtsy and walks away. "Wait," the king said. Charlotte froze. Charlotte's family came from behind and stood next to Charlotte. "What's the matter, Your Majesty?" "About that marriage." "I'm sorry, I refuse." The young girl told her father, Daddy, that lady is very kind. She helped me get my balloon out from the tree. She also called me a cute child, she says while having a big smile on her face. Not the right time. Why is it that you have declined my son's proposal? I've only just met him for a short period amount of time. I only see him as a friend. You can get to know him. Can't you respect my decision? Gosh, so many unnecessary questions. I think Charlotte. Think. I have a lover. I have a what? Charlotte panicked. Oh, I see. Well, have a good day. My family will be returning to our inn to stay. Have a good day, Your Majesties. Charlotte rushed towards her room, but her father blocked her. So who is this lover you mentioned? Well, I'll let you guys meet him soon. Charlotte didn't realize what she just said and rushed to her room, trying to process what she had just gone through. She did a dumb thing. It was rare to see that happen. Charlotte grabbed money and went outside as fast as she could, worrying about who would fit as her lover. She ran to the bar, panting. Long time no see, Charlotte. The bartender greeted Charlotte. Yeah? Was busy with class. One large glass please. Right up. Charlotte drank her drink while sulking. Luckily, Anne showed up and saw her sulking alone with her hands on her face, flustered. What's got you so into the blue? Anne says as she takes a seat at Charlotte's table. Charlotte explains the situation to him and a surprised but irritated look appeared on his face. Prince Louis Ringknight, huh? Yeah. Well, I mean, I could be your pretend lover. Right? Really? You're a lifesaver. She agreed, half drunk. Anne got Charlotte some water for her to sober up a bit. We need to get you look ready for meeting my family. When are you free? If it's okay, I can come to your residence tomorrow. Sure, the Duke Alpheus residence tomorrow at 1 p.m. Yeah. Thanks, Anne. Anytime. Charlotte back at the Duke Alpheus residence. Charlotte goes into the Duke's office. He's coming by at 1 p.m. tomorrow. I see. Well, I'll be prepared. Charlotte goes out of the Duke's office and heads to her room for a good night's rest. The next day, in the afternoon, he should arrive soon. Charlotte was sitting outside on the stairs waiting for his arrival. Finally, he appeared in a nice-looking carriage. Way to go, Anne. Anne steps out of the carriage and sees Charlotte. He was wearing a black suit, exceedingly attractive. Charlotte goes up to Anne and hooks onto his arm. Shall we go? Your lead. They enter the Duke's office. Father, this is Anne, the one I was talking about. I see. Well, how did you meet and fall in love? Anne puts his hand on her shoulder and pulls her closer. You see, Duke Alpheus. I met Charlotte at the academy. We have been close ever since. Prove it. Prove what? Anne and Charlotte face each other. Anne was mouthing something to Charlotte but she couldn't decode it. A second later, Anne pressed his lips onto Charlotte's unexpectedly while her father was watching. He lifted his face off hers and faced the Duke. Is this enough proof, sir? I see. Well, treat my daughter right. Charlotte's face was red all over. She didn't expect that. I needed a warning beforehand. Charlotte and Anne leave the room. Why didn't you give me a warning? I did. Did you not understand? Oh, I'll see you next time we meet. Charlotte, I have business to attend to. Alright. Charlotte sprints to her room and jumps onto her bed, hugging a pillow, while closing her eyes tightly. I'm a mess. Charlotte heads down for lunch and the regular family awkward tension forms again. Her father spoke. So, Charlotte, congrats. Congrats for what? For your lover? Anne. Charlotte spits her water out. Her brother chimes in. You're dating Anne? It just happened. Just don't tell anyone. Silence started again when she said that, after finishing lunch. I'm finished. She heads out of the dining room. Chapter 30. A week later, a maid comes into her room. Miss Charlotte, the Duke has requested your presence. What is it now? Okay. Charlotte follows the maid to the living room where the whole family was taking a seat. Charlotte questions as she takes a seat. She glanced at everyone. Amelia's eyes were sparkling. So, Charlotte, we've decided to surprise you with a trip to Elrod with your lover. Huh? Amelia clings onto Charlotte. You're gonna absolutely enjoy this trip. Explain. Prepare to leave to Elrod in 2 days, just you two together. For one, did you even ask him about this trip? 2, are you guys not going? We have sent him a letter. He has agreed to accompany you on this small trip. No. It will only be you two. How long is the trip gonna be? Just 3 days and 2 nights. You will go by magic circle. What are your real intentions? A drop of sweat slides to the Duke's chin. Truthfully, The king has invited you to Elrod's banquet after watching you defeat Wing Knight's knight, which you never told me about. Either way, I agree to let you meet him and I can't back down. So what's in it for me? A small trip with your lover? 3,000 gold. 2,000. 2,500. Deal. I'll get packing now. In Charlotte's room, she summons a messenger bird to her window and attaches a note on it. To Ain. Did you agree to my father's idea of a small trip to Elrod? Half an hour later the bird returned. He said you agreed to going to Elrod. I thought you agreed first, so I decided to come along as well. You don't know how dangerous Elrod is, so that pesky old man fooled both of us. She attaches another note to the bird. He said you agreed first. That old man really is something, huh? Well, when are you gonna arrive at my residence to create the magic portal? I'm assuming the day after tomorrow. Half an hour goes by once again. Yep, I'll see you then. Charlotte starts packing for the trip. Dresses, shirts and accessories, necessities and more. 2 days later, Ain arrives at the Duke residence and they go into the magic circle with their luggage. The both arrive at Elrod. It was a majestical kingdom. It was different from other kingdoms. It had many trees and vines. Like a majestical realm, originally the Elrod kingdom were made for elves. Although a prince fell in love with the princess from Elrod and the two species have been united ever since. The current king and queen are both humans though, but the king is part elf. Ain and Charlotte arrived at an inn that the Duke has booked. Downstairs was a bar while upstairs was where they were staying. The room looked nice. Wooden flooring with vines attached at the corners of the rooms. Paintings hung on the wall. It carried out a forest vibe. They both liked the room very much. As it was still noon, they decided to lay out their stuff and wore cloaks outside as Ain insisted since it was cold out. They brought a money pouch with them each filled with gold coins. They enjoyed the scenery a lot. It was truly beautiful. Something Charlotte would never expect as a kingdom. The market wasn't much different from Dianle's and Wing Knight's though. They sold freshly cooked meat wrapped in lettuce. It was delicious. The aroma of the market went everywhere. The delightful smell of food went up their nostrils and they scouted the area for food. Of course, not wanting to lose sight of each other, their hands slowly intertwined, holding each other's hand. They moved on and got a lot of mouth-watering viands. They enjoyed their meal. Charlotte saw many elves. Their pointy ears stood out a lot. They looked mystical though, she thought. She witnessed an elf getting picked on by a human. The two were female. Charlotte was eavesdropping on their conversation. Really? An elf like you will never be comparable to me. You don't even speak. You can't do anything, can you? You're useless. Your pointy ears are so gross. Charlotte went up to the elf, her hand placed on the elf's shoulder while the other still hanging onto Ain's hand. I agree. Human. You aren't comparable to this elf right here. You wanna know why? It's because she's gorgeous and her ears make her what she is. I personally think she's enchanting. Just cause you're so-called normal doesn't mean you're special. In fact, you're just basic. Scram. Charlotte dead stared into her eyes and she stomped away infuriated. Hearing those words come from another human was irritating. The elf faced towards Charlotte with teary eyes. Charlotte used her fingers to wipe the elf's tears off. If anyone dares call your ears ugly, you must never think that way. They're unique and you should be proud, Charlotte said, smiling soft. The elf hugged on to Charlotte. It's okay now, Charlotte said and patted her back. Well, you better get going. Your parents might be worried. Thanks, miss. They waved to each other. Ain watched the whole thing. He was proud of Charlotte. They went on with their day. After it hit evening they went back to the inn and had a drink. Before they reached their limit, they stopped drinking and went back upstairs for a good night's rest. The bed was comfortable, although there was a slight problem. There was only a single bed. Charlotte and Ain both insisted that they would sleep on the floor, but the two of them wouldn't budge. At the inn they decided to sleep on the same bed, together. Although it was cramped, the soft mattress made up for it. It was awkward at first but it went well. They slept soundly for the rest of the night. When Ain awoke, he noticed Charlotte was hugging onto Ain like a pillow, her head pressed against his chest. He didn't want to wake her up so he stayed in place. He enjoyed it quite a lot either way. Charlotte suddenly woke up. She was only half awake and couldn't process what was happening. She thought the thing she was hugging was a pillow, so she embraced tighter. Ain's face started becoming red. After a while, Charlotte realizes that her so-called pillow was Ain. She let go and turned away, embarrassed. They get up and get ready. Chapter 31. Since the banquet was a night, The two decided to look around the area. There were floral forest themed graffiti painted on the wall. It made it look better for a tourist destination. A mesmerizing sight. They went through different boutiques to window shop. Charlotte realizes that the dresses she brought to Elrod was completely unfit for the occasion, as the theme of the royal banquet would most likely be floral themed. Charlotte grasped onto Ane's arm, pulling him to every tailor shop there was. A dress caught her eye. It was a pink layered dress with lace delicately placed onto the dress. Various white flowers attached to the waist section of the dress with see-through soft elegant sleeves. There were matching dangling pink earrings that went with the dress. She was captivated by the flowing beauty of the dress. It was just right for the banquet. An elegant floral dress fit for a palace yet perfect for the theme. She bought the dress happily and carried the bag of clothes and accessories along her walk. They stopped by at the book cafe to rest. It was only 3 p.m. There was only 4 hours for them to explore and get ready for the royal banquet. As it was a book cafe, Charlotte stood up to browse through the books displayed on the shelves for the customers who come by. She picked up a history book. Fascinated by the contents inside, she decided to riffle through it. Basic knowledge about Elrod section. Elrod is known for their elf and human alliance. The Elrod kingdom is also the biggest forming country. It consists of the first king's land and Elrod's land. The royal bloodline. There has already been 30 generations from the Elrod and human alliance. The first king from this alliance of Elrod was named Michael Valak Medaliam, but eventually took the name of Michael Valak Elrod. The first queen of Elrod was Evelyn Charm Elrod. The both fell in love despite their species, eventually forming an alliance as the two got married. It is said that the current king and queen have 3 sons. The first son named Nicholas Cole Elrod, the third named Alvin Bryce Elrod. The second has been deemed unknown as the royal family refused to disclose any information about the missing prince. Only a few know where he has ran off to. No one knows when he will return. So many mentions of the missing second prince. Now I'm curious, Charlotte mumbles to herself. After riffling through the pages of the history book, she closed it and placed it back on the shelf. Returning back to her seat where desserts were already set on their table as Anne has already ordered, she couldn't hold back her excitement and tried the delicacies. They were out of this world. It was sweet, like a bomb of happiness has just exploded in her mouth. Her expression showed it all. Anne just watched her eat the desserts as the palm on his hand presses against his cheek and elbow on the table, the other hand placed flat on the surface. They both were enjoying their time there. After they ate, they returned back to their inn. Finally, it was time where they were supposed to prepare for the royal banquet. Charlotte wore the dress she bought earlier. It was a floral-length dress. She was beautiful. She applied natural makeup and looked into the body-length mirror. Her looks were bewitching, as expected. Nobody would dare expect less from Charlotte Alpheus, the deemed hero that people claimed. Charlotte was very proud of how she had done with her outfit and looks. She glanced at Anne. He was looking way more attractive than usual. He was fit but wasn't the type of guy who was extremely buff. Just Charlotte's type. Way to go, Charlotte. You're exceedingly good looking tonight. You can say the same for yourself. Let's hurry on to the carriage. We have to arrive at the palace. You don't have to tell me it twice. Let's go. The carriage that arrived earlier than expected. Charlotte and Anne went on the carriage. The seats were expectedly comfortable and the small dangling light decorations were also a cute boost to the experience. On the journey to the castle, Charlotte looked out the window to see many noble women, both elf and human. She was right, of course. The dress she bought was definitely up to theme. Once the carriage stopped, the both got out to see an amazing glass palace built in front of them. Who would thought they would make a palace out of a greenhouse? Although it was bizarre, it was definitely reaching her standards. Whoa! Anne escorted Charlotte into the palace entrance. Once they stepped foot in the palace, they saw many people staring at them. The knight who was shouting attendants said, "The royal guests, Charlotte Alpheus and her lover has arrived." They walked down the stairs while people's eyes were directly at them. Nothing new. Although it was weird for people to stare at them in a new environment. After 10 minutes or so, trumpets went off and the knight shouted, "His Majesty and his family has arrived." People started clapping and so did we. The royals sat on their thrones. A seat was left empty for the lost prince. The king stood up from his seat and announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad you all could gather up today to celebrate this glorious day. This banquet was held for my first son's birthday. I didn't know it was his birthday. What gift am I supposed to give him? The Crown Prince went up to Charlotte. Good day, Melody. What gift have you given me on this day? My deepest apologies, Your Majesty, as I wasn't informed of today. I didn't know about Your Majesty's birthday. Impudent being. Guards, take her away. Huh? What? A voice came from behind. It was Ain. Her gift is me, brother! Exclamation mark. The Crown Prince gasped. Is that really you, Ain? The Crown Prince ran to the king to tell him who he just met. The king was stunned of his second son's return. Everyone, your attention please. Everyone's gaze landed on the king. The Crown Prince brought Ain up the stairs. Leaving Charlotte down, the guards have already backed up from Charlotte, which was a good sign. My second son has returned. Ain Elrod, the second Prince of Elrod. The crowd gasps and whispers swarm the area. What was he doing the past years he's been missing? How did he get here? Why did he come back? Questions, whispers, rumors all surrounded the palace. It was big news. Ain then stepped up and said, "Greetings everyone, it's been a short amount of time since I've returned. I am glad to be back, but I will not return to my royal duties. I've only came back to celebrate this fine evening with my partner. As she wasn't informed of my brother's birthday, she wasn't able to get a gift. Although my return is dedicated to Charlotte. Isn't that enough for a birthday gift? I will visit sometime again soon when this banquet is over. I also happily congratulate my brother on reaching 20 this year." The crowd applauds, some still stunned of his return. His family all hugged him for his return. The banquet continued and they danced all night. Charlotte and Ain were the center of attention. They danced gracefully, a match made in heaven. They also ate and returned back to their inn. The small trip ended peacefully. "You better explain, cause I want answers." "I'm the second Prince of Elrod. What's so big about that?" "You're a prince, for heaven's sake." "Yeah, but I'm not anymore since I haven't been attending royal duties for a while." "You still have royal blood, you know." I know, but still. It isn't anything much." "You win this time. Let's hit the sack." "I'm exhausted from dancing all night." "Agreed." They huddled up in bed and slept soundly. A calm night went by. Chapter 32. They had already gone back home. Ain was staying in Charlotte's residence for a few days. It definitely helped their bond. On the day they arrived back at the Duke residence, "Welcome back. Was it fun?" Amelia came out asking them. "It was a nice trip. Come on in and have some lunch with us." Amelia indicating to both Charlotte and Ain. "Alright," the two said in unison. In the dining room, there sat the Duke, Duchess and their children alongside Ain. Of course Ain and Charlotte were sitting next to each other to display them as a couple. Asher was intrigued by their sudden idea of dating. "So, what made you want to date my sister? She's a beautiful, independent and strong woman." "Who wouldn't like that?" Charlotte just smiled from his response. So that's how he thought of her. It was a surprising but pleasing answer. They proceeded to have a delightful chat that has never happened in the Duke household ever since Charlotte made a sudden change. Their family was starting to bloom once more. This time the full family was there, enjoying their time while having a delicious meal. After they had a delightful meal, Ain asked Charlotte, "Mind if I stay here for a few days?" "I don't see why not." Charlotte brought Ain to a room not far from hers. Inside was a guest room. It was a luxurious room made for people with high authority staying there. Of course, being the lover of one of the Duke's daughters was already big news enough, not to mention the long-lost second Prince of Elrod. They made an agreement to act like lovers for the time being so they wouldn't get caught by the Duke. It was going very smoothly as it seemed that the Duke was completely fooled. Acting skills on point. There will definitely be rumors about the two. News spread like wildfire when the pair were rumored to be dating. Although both didn't pay much attention to it, rumors were already normal for them. Even though they were just playing pretend for a short while, the both definitely felt a connection. What may it be? Charlotte aka Estella, for one who has never had a lover other than her close friend Ezekiel, which she completely forgot how he looked like because of a spell put on her by her fellow friends. Although the spell definitely was crucial. It helped Charlotte to ease the hole in her heart after losing a precious friend. She always thought about having a lover and what real love felt like. People described it as cherry blossoms blooming inside of you, carrying out immense happiness not even your face could endure. After introducing Ain to the guest room, She directed him to the bathroom that was also connected to the guest room. Ain got comfortable in the room and laid out his suitcase. Charlotte left the room and went back to her own. It was an exhausting day. They had just arrived back from Elrod with even bigger news. Everything was complicated and Charlotte buried her face into her pillow. It's been a while since I've last seen Damon and Mabel, Charlotte thought to herself. She wanted to get some treats for the twins while stopping by at the capital. It's been long since she's enjoyed going to the capital anyways. A small break to the capital after an exhausting trip. She nodded to herself and went to check on Ain. She knocks on her door and he answers. He was in normal clothing. Ain, do you wanna accompany me to Mabel and Damon's house? I'm stopping by at the capital to buy some treats for them. Sure, I've got nothing better to do anyways. Charlotte, who has already gotten dressed up for the occasion, having a coin purse attached to her belt. Ain was too lazy to change, so they just went out. It might have been a bad idea for them to walk together, as rumors from nobles who were visiting the capital circulated around the area. These people really need to mind their own business. What a pain in the neck. They quickly hurried into the bakery. Unfortunately, Elijah the Prince of Elrod had already been in. Charlotte, yelled the Elijah. The heavens just hate me today, don't they? Hello. What brings you here? Him completing ignoring Ain's existence. I'm buying sweets for a few friends. I see. Charlotte backs up from the conversation and goes pick up some desserts. Turning back and seeing Elijah and Ain glaring at each other, could be described as children. With a box of treats in her hand, she grabs Ain's hand with the other. She was irritated, turning to face Elijah while trying to let out a smile indicating we're leaving. She pulls Ain out of the shop. Starting to think you both hold a grudge against each other for whatever reason. We just dislike each other for personal reasons. Yeah, let's just get to Mabel's and Damon's house. People were still whispering around them. Charlotte finally realized her hand was still intertwined with Ain's and let go. She became red. Just follow me. Alright. It was a short journey to the Farquez's house. They arrived in just 15 minutes of walking. They knocked on their door and Damon answered. Oh, hi Charlotte. What brings you here? Ah, you're here too, Ain. Come on in. We just came to visit since it's already been 2 months. I see. Ain and Charlotte walked into their house and Charlotte prepared the treats she bought earlier. Macaroons, cake, cookies, etc. They also bought some exclusive tea the bakery sold. Damon called Mabel downstairs and they were enjoying their time together. The 4 student council reuniting. Alright, Mabel has already graduated, hasn't she? Yeah, Damon replied. Mabel, what are you aiming to be? A professional swordsman. I'll probably work as a mercenary and participate in war. I see. They continued their chat for hours and it finally hit evening. Ain and Charlotte returned back to the Duke residence and had a good night's rest as they've already ate at the Farquez house. Chapter 33. Weeks went by and before you knew it, summer break was over. Charlotte and Asher have arrived back at Academy. Ain was already there waiting for the both of them. Houston also came back after visiting his parents. Charlotte was glad to be back. It was a new school year. Mabel was gone from the academy and is now aiming to become a well-known swordsman. Now there was left 3 of the student council. Charlotte back at her dorm she shared with Houston. She goes into the room. Houston, long time no see. Charlotte, you better explain yourself. Explain myself? About you and Ain. Rumors spread around the whole campus that you two are dating and went to Elrod together. He was revealed as the missing second prince of Elrod. News spread at the speed of Mach 20. The two sat on the couch. Charlotte calmed herself down and she explained about how she accidentally said lover and got Ain involved in her matters and her little trip too. The silence continued for ages. Houston decided to break it. I see. Well, you better go do something about it immediately till news spreads even further. I think so too. Thanks for hearing me out. I'm gonna go to Ain's dorm. Charlotte turned on invisibility. She sprinted to Ain's room and knocked on his door, revealing herself afterwards. Is my brother in there? No, he went out. It's only me. Alright, that's great, let's head inside. We need to discuss some things. Charlotte takes a seat and Ain prepares some tea and takes a seat himself. So what's wrong? You know about the rumors about us, right? Yeah, I'm aware. What are we supposed to do about them? The rumors are about us dating, right? Your point? My point is I think that, We should date for real. Charlotte spits out her tea she was sipping on out of shock. What? Let's date. Can I have some time to think about it? Her face was glowing red, receiving such requests so randomly. Is this a confession? Who knows? I'll give you all the time you want, I just want an answer, he says, with a slight grin on his face. Charlotte takes her leave and turns back invisible, walking slowly to her dorm, trying to process what she had just heard. Does he like her or does he not? Is it just a way to fool the public? Will he play with her? Charlotte was filled with questions. Charlotte opens the door to her room and reveals herself, closes it and places her back on the door, sliding down for her to sit on the hard floor. Houston was just confused. So? What happened? Houston asked. He asked me to date him. It was so random even I couldn't believe it myself. So are you guys dating for real now? Nope. I haven't gave him an answer. It's just a lot to comprehend, you know. Well, you should think it through thoroughly. Yep, I will. I'm gonna go to my room now. Charlotte was lying flat on her bed, thinking what she would do. Yes. No, but yes, I give up. She let out. Well, he did give me all the time in the world to think. I don't have to give him an answer immediately. Yep, we can just stay friends for the time being. Charlotte procrastinated, leaving the question behind, not wanting to answer it. It was for the best. Or was it? She kept getting lost in thoughts and couldn't focus on anything. They had 3 days to prepare for a new semester and before class restarts. Charlotte and Houston were now second years, Anne a third. Time went by quickly. Charlotte overworked herself once again to get her mind off Anne and studied for the whole year's class. Houston had to convince Charlotte to get out of her room, but she didn't budge for 2 days straight, living off on water. Her eye bags darkened each day. She was tired but kept going. It felt like nothing could stop her. She just wanted to keep studying so she could ace everything and meet with everyone's expectations again. Truthfully, she wanted to be the best of the best, not wanting to disappoint anyone. Atlas. It was the last day of her 3-day break. She finished studying and memorizing the formula and spells. Everything was gonna go according to plan. Charlotte tried to get up to eat, but her legs were moving, so she used her divine energy to nourish herself again and fell asleep. She was exhausted from constant studying. It was good that she didn't study for another day, or else she would have become a weak, frail human and would faint non-stop. She slept for a good 20 hours and woke up just in time for the first day of class. She finally felt energized after days. Houston and Charlotte got ready for breakfast. They went to the cafeteria. Rumors and whispers surrounded them about Charlotte. Word sure does spread fast, doesn't it? A group of girls came up to Charlotte, standing before her. They threw a paper ball at her. Listen, Miss Charlotte, Ain is ours. He rightfully belongs to the Ain fan club. Ain fan club? Ha! He isn't an object to be claimed, and if you have any problem with my relationship with Ain, I suggest you back off before I shove my chopsticks down your throat. Charlotte threatened, giving them a deathly glare while walking around them. Houston followed. They got their food and went to their tables. Females' eyes were landed directly on Charlotte. Ain also had came down for breakfast and went to Charlotte's table. More glares were fixated on Charlotte. Of course Charlotte didn't like those stares, so she scared them off with a glare. They knew what exactly she could do to them, and it wouldn't be nice. The trio was once together again. They had fun talking and finished their meal. They returned to their separate classrooms afterwards. Chapter 34. As it was a Monday, the final class would be swordsmanship. As the first 3 periods were over, they all head to the training grounds in their swordsman uniforms. Professor Hemsworth was teaching their class again this year. Hello students, this year I shall teach you all how to infuse your mana into the sword. I shall demonstrate first. The teacher infuses his mana into the sword and it glows of red. He swings the sword and the red trail follows the momentum of the swing. Some students were intrigued by the scene. A mana sword takes skill to master. Now that I've shown you, I'll welcome Houston and Charlotte to come up here and battle. I've already seen them use mana swords in the swordsman competition. Houston spoke up. Me, battle Charlotte? Absolutely not. She's a whole beast that could kill me in one swing. Charlotte responded, pussy, I wonder how you even got second place anyway. Houston sulked. It's still pretty impressive, you know. Whatever. Just treat this as a revenge match. You bet. Charlotte and Houston gets ready in position and charges each other. While running they infuse their mana into the sword. They match swords with each other. Houston has gotten stronger but is still no match for Charlotte. A moment later his sword flies upward and lands straight into the ground. Charlotte's sword was to Houston's neck. Looks like I reign victor once again. Houston gets up and puts his hands on his knees, panting and sulking. Their classmates were fascinated and applauded. The professor speaks up. Well, that was a show. Now please do what they did and infuse your mana into your own swords. Charlotte takes a seat and drinks water while the others try their hardest to infuse mana into their swords. Charlotte thought they were struggling hard. Hey, she yelled at the students. Now that I think about it, Professor Hemsworth didn't even tell them how to infuse their mana into their own swords. Everyone looks at Charlotte confused. You are all doing it wrong. You all look constipated trying to infuse your mana into the sword. Instead you're supposed to calm yourself and focus on the mana within you and land it on the sword. Just sit down and I'll explain along the way. The students all listened to Charlotte and sat down and closed their eyes. Hold your swords in front of you and keep calm. Focus entirely on your mana. You will see balls of mana floating in your vision. Gather them up with your mind and focus them on your sword. Then your sword will glow red and you can open your eyes. One by one students followed Charlotte's instructions and opened their eyes to see that they completed it. They were able to infuse their mana in their swords. They were overjoyed. Charlotte just looked at them smiling, a proud mentor. Class dismissed. You all did well, especially Charlotte. Houston went up to Charlotte and wrapped his arm around her. Seems like you got more fans. He points to the students she just taught how to infuse mana into a sword. Well, I guess it isn't that bad. They walked to the cafeteria. Aine also went to Charlotte and walked with her. The ultimate trio was there. Eyes on them all the time. They got their food and sat down. Charlotte, it's only us in the student council now. Should we recruit members? Aine asked. I guess. Who? The both thought for a second and turned their heads to face Houston. Me? Okay, I already left the music club anyway. Charlotte and Aine high five and success. They bring Houston to the luxurious student council room. How do you like the place? Whoa, who knew the student council's room would be this fancy? Hey, privilege I guess. Aine throws a pack of red uniform to Houston and he takes off his shirt to try it on. Have you forgotten a female is here? Charlotte exclaims and shuts her eyes. Yeah whatever, Houston says as he buttons up his shirt and finishes wearing his uniform. I'll go inform the headmistress of a new recruit. You guys can go scout the area now. Alright. Charlotte walks at the door to the headmistress's office. She knocks on the door and sees the headmistress. Oh Charlotte, come have a seat. Charlotte takes a seat and says, Greetings headmistress, it's been a while. Anyway, I have recruited Houston Laurel as a new member of the student council as we are running low. Is that fine with you? Ah, I see. Well, he sure is pretty skilled. I don't have any objections. You're the leader of the student council anyway. Thank you ma'am. Charlotte leaves the room and goes to scout the premises. She stumbles across a club which was really interesting. She stands outside the door and eavesdrop. The people inside say, this club is for worshipping Aine. He is revealed as the second prince of Elrod. All hail Aine. This is pathetic. Charlotte listens in more and laughs. It was really stupid indeed. A club for a sole person. What's got you laughing on your knees? Charlotte lifts her head and sees Aine staring at her. Whoa. Since when were you here? Charlotte said with a shocked expression. Why can't I be here? You're twisting my words. I just found the club stupid. You wanna be one of my fangirls too? I just said the club was stupid, you idiot. Well, let's go back to scouting the area before we get caught eavesdropping. Yeah. Anyway, when are you gonna give me an answer? In a few years. I'll wait as long as you want. His fist against the wall, surrounding Charlotte. Charlotte sprints away. Embarrassed. They already ate dinner and went to their rooms. Charlotte went to sleep exhausted. She finished the assignments earlier already. Chapter 35. It's the next day and it's third period. So students, before I leave, I'd like to announce something. People of the ones who are in clubs have to take part in the Academy's show. It's only held on certain years and there will be judges. It can be singing, dancing or even a play. Anyway, it's hosted for your parents, so call them and tell them to attend. Class dismissed. I've never participated in a play. What am I supposed to do? Charlotte stresses out but tries to hide it, although her anxiety levels shot through the roof. Next was monoclass, the fourth and final period of the day. It was Professor Haley who was teaching them again this year. Greetings students, I hope you all enjoyed your time in summer break. We are back into business. This year I will be teaching you all how to use healing, water and air energy. All the students look hyped as Charlotte has already taught them how to use all the main mana energies. Charlotte just let out a smirk. Professor Haley hasn't said anything yet, but all the students shows their skills one by one. Healing energy produces green particles. Some create different water spirits and small swirling winds appear floating on their hands. Professor Haley was very impressed. Whoa, I see all of you have been studying in the past few months. Nope, some said in unison. Actually, we've been taught this a while ago in our first semester by Charlotte. A person spoke up. I see. Well, every one of you will have to show me how good your skills are. Charlotte looked like a proud mother. Truly a great mentor. Professor Haley tested the students and was stunned by the results. They once again impressed her. An hour goes by and class is dismissed. When Charlotte was heading for lunch, a lot of talk goes on. I wonder how Charlotte will pull this off. She'll win first place. Wanna place a bet? She'll obviously impress everyone. Charlotte just went to her seat and ate quietly, trying to keep her cool. Even if she was a god, she used to have extreme anxiety attacks. She was nervous and always wanted to reach everyone's expectations. She has succeeded till now, but then again a show is something she has never done. What can she even do at the show? What if she messes up? She hurriedly sprints to one of the more faraway trees and sits under the shade. She huddled and kept pressuring herself. Even though the student council is technically not a club, they still would probably have to participate. Nothing less from Charlotte is what they would always say. Charlotte's heart was beating really fast. A figure came up from a distance. Ain saw Charlotte from a distance and went up to her as he was curious what she was doing all alone under such lone tree. What's wrong? Charlotte just looked Ain anxiously. Her eyes were teary. You know, I'm always exceeding everyone's expectations. I don't even know what we will do at the play, nor do I have any experience, and it worries me. What if people start thinking that I'm just a joke that only is good at sword fighting and controlling mana? It's just really frustrating when I can't reach people's peaking point. Why do you think that? You've touched the souls of so many people. Why would they look down on you when you have proven to them that you're already standing above way more levels than them? If they look down on you just because you don't manage to win this show, means that they're just foolish. Sometimes you just have to drop your guard so your heart can breathe. Tears start running down her face. She didn't even notice. Ain embraces Charlotte in her arm, just giving her enough room to breathe. Tears flowing down rapidly. Her true side was showing. Slowly opening up again, Charlotte clears up her face and make her blood vessels that service the glands dilate disappear. There was no more redness on her face. Sorry for wetting your shirt. Charlotte apologized, embarrassed. It's nothing. Come on, we're supposed to head to the student council room now and discuss our show plans. Alright. The two arrive at the student council. Houston was sitting with his legs above the desk. The headmistress stopped by earlier and asked me what Charlotte was good at, and I said the harp. She gave me a script and can I just call dibs on the side character? Houston says, well, it depends what the script is first though. Charlotte responded. Houston hands over the script to Charlotte and Ain looked from above her shoulder to read to the harpist and the singer. Description. The play where Angel is the female lead and Lucas is male lead. Leo is a side character who is also Angel's follower. Angel plays the harp beautifully and touches the hearts of many. She was a glorious harpist who had excellent skills. One day when she was practicing, a soft voice came out of nowhere matching her song beautifully. It was a duo made in heaven. The soft voice turned out to be from a beautiful man and his name was Lucas. They performed a duet on stage and have a connection with each other. They both have a kiss to end the performance. A kiss? Charlotte and Ain were both surprised. Yeah, well, I'm playing Leo, Houston says, throwing us under the bus like that, man. It can't be helped. You're the only female in our group, so you would have to kiss either one of us anyway. Charlotte sulks and couldn't deny the fact that what Houston said was right. Shall we rehearse? First of all, we need to discuss about what song Charlotte should play. Ain says. Houston takes a harp from his back and gives it to Charlotte. The headmistress also gave me this. Charlotte chooses her favorite song that she would play for Ezekiel when they were in the God realm. Ain attempts to match the melody and create lyrics of it. They made some touches and the song came out beautifully. Let's continue tomorrow after school. Alright, let's head to eat now. I'm starving. The three went to the cafeteria. Chapter 36. Class was already over and the three has gathered up. Charlotte starts the conversation. We need costumes, right? Let's get to the Capitol and buy some clothes. Alright. The three get into the carriage and head to the Capitol. Charlotte heads into the boutique she first entered when she transferred to Charlotte's body. Ah, hello again. Are they one of your lovers you mentioned? The tailor asked. Huh? What? Charlotte gasped. Houston and Aim just looked confused and stared at each other. What lover? They both said in unison. It's nothing. Anyway, Miss, can you pick out a matching outfit and a black suit made for nobles? We're hosting a playlist. I see. I apologize, haha. It's alright. The tailor picks out a black suit and a matching white suit with a white length dress. The clothes were very eye-catching. The three liked their costumes and paid for them, then headed back to the academy. They're currently at the student council room. They rehearse their lines and wear their costumes. The audience would sure be mesmerized by the three. It was the day of the show. Many groups have already performed. It was time for the student council to perform. They were at the backstage. Charlotte was panicking and kept panting, worried if she would do all right or not. Announcer, next up we have the student council. Please welcome them. The crowd applauds as the curtains open. Charlotte plays as Angel, the female lead, and Ain plays as Lucas, the male lead. Houston plays as the extra follower of Angel, Leo. There were three judges there with a pen and paper. As the curtains opened, a woman in a dress was sitting there playing a melodious tune. It sounded like the heavens have chosen an angel. A guy in black came out and clapped as he watched her. The audience was mesmerized by how good she was at the harp. The curtains closed and reopened. This time Angel was sitting alone when a singing voice came out of nowhere, matching with the angelic music. Angel went to see who it was and saw a beautiful man in white. Who are you? Question mark. Lucas. Would you mind playing a duet with me next time on stage? Why should I? Your singing voice matches my harp skills a lot, you know. Still doesn't convince me. I'll do anything. Anything? Then let's go on a date. Huh? The curtains close and reopen again. This time the two are together on the A table having a lovely date. They were having spaghetti while looking at each other with affection. Are you staring at me? Aren't you doing the same? Wait, see. So will you perform with me? A deal's a deal, right? When's your next performance? She smiles brightly and tells him the details of her next play. The curtain closes. This time the two were standing next to each other. Leo was watching from afar, standing. Lucas and Angel matches their sound beautifully and captivates the audience's attention. Everyone had stars in their eyes as they watched. At the end of their duet they looked at each other like they were soulmates and shared a light kiss. The audience were stunned and some even gasped at the sight of their beck on the lips. The curtains closed and the audience applauds loudly. They stopped playing the roles of their characters when the curtains closed. That was frightening, man. Charlotte said. You did great. Who knew you were such a great actor? You too. Houston was a good supporting character, honestly. I didn't even have lines. I just stood there and clapped. Houston replied. Yeah, which was great since we didn't have to hear your annoying ass. Wow. Are we supposed to wait for the results now? Ain asked. Probably. I've calmed down now since we finished the play. I felt my heart exploding. Charlotte said. Well, looks like Ain's fangirls have more competition. Houston said. Yeah, whatever. Moments later all the groups gathered up on stage. They were going to announce the winners. Charlotte was basically trembling at this point. Announcer. In third place we have the group which performed a great musical performance for the judges and audience. Congratulations to the music club for winning 3,000 gold. Now on to second place we have the group which performed an extraordinary mana air explosion. Congratulations to the science club for winning 5,000 gold. Now on to the final congrats of the day. The people who won first place in this year's show. The group who captivated everyone's heart with their amazing acting and musical skills. None other than the student council trio has won the 10,000 gold. The crowd applauds and cheers for them. The three received flowers as they stepped up. A huge sack of gold was brought to them. It shined of gold. They were back at the student council room from a long day of countless performances. So we're dividing this, right? Houston asked. Of course we are, Charlotte responded. What about the extra piece? Who's gonna get it? Houston asked again. Just leave it here at the student council as a trophy or something, Ain said. Anyway, I'm starving, can we get some food? The three went down to eat dinner and eyes were on them. They were the stars of the night, exceedingly popular. Can I have your autographs? A random girl came up to the three. What? Charlotte asked in confusion. The girl just stared at them with a paper and pen in their hands. Houston took the pen and signed it, so did Anne. Charlotte was the last and did it anyway considering how the other two did. Thanks. You're welcome. The three hurriedly got their food and went to their tables. People kept swarming them asking them questions. Can't you see we're trying to eat here? Houston said angrily. Charlotte tried to keep her cool and kept eating. A person knocked Charlotte's plate and it went flying. The people looked shocked. You're pretty bold to surround us like this, you know? You should be grateful that this is a public area or I would have burned you alive. The people scattered and Charlotte stormed off to her room and went to sleep. Chapter 37. They kept getting swarmed by females. It irritated Charlotte a lot, but Houston liked the attention. Anne thought nothing of this matter. The people were swarming them when they were walking and Charlotte snapped. Get within 6 meters of me and I'll put you 6 feet under. She threatened with a ball of fire in her hand. The girls ran away scared of Charlotte. Thank God. I was practically suffocating. Houston was standing there sulking while Anne was unbothered. You scared them away, Houston said. I mean, I know I did. You don't have to state the obvious. If I wasn't patient I would have burnt them already. You cruel woman. Whatever you say. I need to hurry up to my office and complete my assignments. I'll see you two later, I guess. Since when did you have an office? Since I officially entered the academy. Did you guys not know? Both of them shook their head, not knowing that she had her own office. Wanna come in then? We can complete assignments together, I guess. Sure, Anne said while Houston nodded. Okay. Follow me. They arrived at her office. Inside was a white desk with shelves. It was similar to the headmistress's office but slightly smaller, although it still looked eye-catching. Whoa, you have this all to yourself? Yeah, the headmistresses insisted. I'm glad since I have my own private space to study. Anyway, let's get to work. They sit at the table in the office and started doing their assignments. Charlotte kept tutoring Houston while Anne was quietly doing his assignments, not having a trouble at all. Anne, you've been very quiet lately, Charlotte said. Oh. I am? Yeah, Houston responded. Is anything bothering you? Nah, I'm just really bored. Then shall we all have a picnic later? I'll skip dinner if you guys are up. Sure, Houston and Anne say. It was evening and Charlotte had a basket filled with fruit and beverages. Houston followed Charlotte to Anne's room knocking on the door. Hey Anne, let's go. Alright. The three walk out to the garden and placed down a picnic blanket on the green grass. They took out juice and fruit then ate happily. They were chatting merrily. I need to go to the bathroom real quick, Houston said and sprinted. Well, Anne, I figured I don't know much about you. Wanna tell me a bit more about yourself? Asked Charlotte curiously. Well, let's see. I was a very playful child and I only had one friend. His name was Mills. He was the son of a baron and we were great friends. We had many similarities like, liking the same color, loved running and singing. I considered him closer to me than my own brothers. Little did I know he was terminally ill and passed away before I could even say goodbye. Visiting his funeral was devastating to me. That's not even the worst part. After that, Prince Louis of Wingnide threatened to disunite with the Elrod kingdom if I stole his spotlight or whatever. So I had came into hiding till I met him and Wingnite with you a while ago. How can you say that without shedding a single tear? Charlotte's eyes were teary. Anne got a napkin and wiped off her tears. Do you feel bad for me? Of course I do. Wanna know what would make me feel better? Anne crawled onto Charlotte, their faces inches apart from each other. Charlotte was flabbergasted and embarrassed. Her face looked flustered and red. Little did they know Houston was staring eyes wide open, shocked and confused. He was practically afraid of them. Was he about to see them do it? His innocent virgin eyes. Both of them turned to Houston's direction, looking at him. He was frozen in place, unable to do anything and was in a trance. I'm sorry for ruining the moment, he says and sprints off. Wait, Charlotte exclaimed. Now where were we? Anne said. He returned to face Charlotte, closing up to her. Charlotte was about to break a sweat as he cornered her, not knowing what to do. He was about to kiss her on the lips, or so she thought he was. Instead, he kissed her on the cheek, which was very unexpected. Well, that's it for tonight. Shall we get going? It's getting dark, Anne said with his head up looking at the sky. Yeah, Charlotte responded. They returned back to their dorms after tidying up and returning the basket to the cafeteria owner. Houston watched Charlotte come back into the dorm. She averted her eyes, avoiding his suspicious gaze. So, did you guys do it? He asked. Do what? It. What's it? You know, woman and man thing. Charlotte had a ball of wind in her hand and threw it at Houston, running back in her room while shouting, "No, we did not." Her face stuffed in her pillow, embarrassed. She tried denying it and thought of it as just a pathetic hallucination. She stood up and ran laps around her room, trying to get the thought of what had happened back then out of her head. She was tired, of course, but still tried. Charlotte revised a whole semester's worth of subjects again. I guess that's how she copes with things she doesn't want to remember. It was normal to her. She would dive herself in paperwork when she was stressed. She was up the whole night. When Houston went to check up on her in the morning, she looked like a dead person. Charlotte, did you stay up all night again? Me? Of course not. I definitely slept. Yup. Charlotte stood up and her vision was blurry. She got ready and went to class with Houston. She fainted halfway and had her ass dragged by Houston to the academy's infirmary. The nurse working there said, she fainted from exhaustion. She looks like she needs a week of rest in bed. Her head was burning. Has she done this before? Yeah, she has. Well, thanks for informing me. Yeah, no problem. Anyways, just keep her in bed for a week. I assume you should head to class now. I'll check up on her for you. Houston thanked the nurse and went off to class. Chapter 38. Charlotte awoke and found herself on the bed. She tried to get up, but her body wouldn't let her. The built-in fatigue really got to her. Her whole body ached and it was hard to move. She could use her divine energy, but she chose not to, since it would be weird if a person who was supposed to be resting suddenly gets better without any medicine. I see you have awakened, the nurse there said. Acknowledgement. How long have I been out for? 6 hours. Your friend brought you here when you passed out. You have to rest for a week to ease your sleep deprivation. Huh? A week? It's really severe for some reason. He says you've only been up the whole night, so I don't know why either. Probably from the built-in fatigue gathered from last time I stayed up. Ah, I see. Thanks. No worries. You'll have some visitors soon. A while after the students were about to head to lunch, Ain went to visit Charlotte. I heard from Houston you fainted from exhaustion. I guess so. Are you able to sit? Yeah, but my whole body aches. Charlotte attempts to sit up and succeeds. Ain takes a spoon of porridge and feeds it to her. How did it turn out like this? Ain finishes feeding her to porridge and pecks her forehead. Get better soon. Why put me in more pain? Charlotte was flustered and she turned red again. Ain left the room and in came Houston. You good? You look red. Do you have a fever? He asked. I'm alright. This is why you should have slept. SMH. If you're here to lecture me, I don't want to hear it. Yeah, whatever. Have you eaten yet? Yeah, Ain got me food. Well, okay. Get well better. I'm here to bring you your assignments. Alright. Leave them here. Okay. Houston leaves her assignments on the table beside her and pats her head, then leaves to attend his duties. Charlotte sits up straight and does her assignments. Her body still aches as she tries writing. 2 days go by and the same routine repeats. Ain comes in, feeds her and goes out. Houston comes in to give her the assignments and heads out. On the 3rd day, the headmistress went to visit Charlotte. Greetings, headmistress. Ah, Charlotte, how are you? Have you been fine? The headmistress asked, worried. I've been good. Suddenly screams came from everywhere. The both were startled. Charlotte peeks at the window and saw a frightening sight. Monsters? Rank monsters. I thought I strengthened the barrier. Monsters? The headmistress exclaimed. We need to hurry, Charlotte said. But you're resting. It's okay. I can handle it. Charlotte stands up and jumps at the window. The students were all running to the field to see what was happening. Every single one of them. They were foolish enough to see the monsters themselves. There were 5 rank monsters going up to the academy for who knows why. Did her divine powers attract the monsters? They were huge, each and every single one of them. All the students saw Charlotte running up to the monster in speed, knowing she was supposed to be in bed. She changed back to her original goddess form. She turned into a beautiful goddess that captivated the eyes of everyone. Pulling out a holy sword. Jaws hung open seeing this. Charlotte slaughters one of moves onto the other, jumping head to head. Shit, there's too many. Suddenly remembering that she could call for Lorenzo, she shouts his name aloud and someone came up running. Ain, what's he doing? He then turns into a gorgeous man with snow white hair and deep blue eyes, a holy axe forming from thin air into his hand jumping onto the monsters. Huh? Ain is Lorenzo. What when Estella and Lorenzo teamed up to defeat the monsters, slicing through their vital points and piercing their weapons into their heads, finishing them off then toppling to the ground. Impressive. A live-action show for the students. The duo finish off the last ones and jump off the dead monsters. Estella looks at Lorenzo confused while he just smiles back at her. It was a shock to see that there were two god beings on this land. They walked towards the crowds of students and up came running Houston. Who are you guys? Really? He asked. Estella Deville. Charlotte responded. Lorenzo. Ain followed. Surprise surprise, we're both gods. I didn't even know Ain was also a god though. Houston looked shocked and somewhat left out since he himself wasn't a god. Students cheered for the two. The headmistress walks up to the three. Well, I see both your identities are now revealed. You knew he was god? Asked Charlotte. No, I only sensed your energy. His energy seems more mysterious than others. Ah. No, because Lorenzo, what god rank are you actually? Charlotte asked curiously. S rank. I thought I was the only S rank. Well, enough of that. We need to strengthen the barrier immediately. Ain lends out a hand to Charlotte. Yup. Charlotte places her hand into his. Both of them close their eyes and mix their divine energy together and a beam of light shoots up into a sky strengthening the barrier. This time it would sure be stronger than the last. I guess I don't have to go to the infirmary anymore, she says as she transforms back into Charlotte's body. Ain does the same. Students didn't know if they were supposed to be amazed or afraid of the two gods that attended the academy. They didn't mind though, more peace and quiet if they left them alone. The following days were peacefully. Nobody dared disturb them and people respected them even more. News got out rapidly. Soon every kingdom knew this news and the two became famous, which was a pain in the ass for Charlotte. Chapter 39. 2 years go by since then. Charlotte and Houston are now seniors. So is Asher and Elijah. Ain has become an advisor of ZZUO Academy and is an assistant working for the headmistress, getting money while at it. Amelia finally passed the entrance exam and is now a first year. Some days into February, it was a Monday, which also means Valentine's Day was around the corner. Regardless of the rumors of Ain and Charlotte dating, people still chased after them. Before class the trio were sitting at their table eating. The Crown Prince Elijah went up to Charlotte and kissed her hand. Good morning, Malady. I'm uninterested. Charlotte didn't care anymore and just kept eating. I annulled my engagement with Amelia for you, my goddess. Charlotte was shocked since she didn't expect him to annul his engagement. Well, it was expected anyway. He's a player after all, but still, after years of being engaged. Of course she knew it wasn't love, all it was a political marriage. I don't care, Charlotte said as she kept eating. I'm royalty, and you dare speak such words to me? I'm the ruler of gods and I can burn your whole kingdom in one blow. Who's more superior? Elijah didn't care and went off irritated. He failed to pursue her once again. Great work threatening someone of high ranks, Houston said sarcastically. He knows I'm not someone to be messed with, so I don't really care. She's mine anyway. Ain mumbles to himself. What did you say? Houston and Charlotte asked. Nothing. The first 3 periods were over. It was swordsman class now. Professor Hemsworth starts off the class. Greetings class. Today I will teach you all how to release your auras. How big your aura means how strong and powerful you are. Firstly, close your eyes. Think of something or someone you absolutely despise. Think you're charging at them with your full energy, aiming to slaughter them. Your aura will slowly leak at you. You need to have full concentration though. Each of the students follow the professor's instructions and auras start leaking out. Some amounts were big and some were small. Charlotte's aura stood out the most, of course. She thought about murdering the Crown Prince of Wing Knight, Elrod, and Dianely. Why are Crown Princes so dogshit? She thought to herself. Not even once of the 3 kingdoms has she met a decent prince except Ain, of course. Her aura glowed of gold, to the point where you could see her eyes shine too. Well, whatever she was thinking about must have fired her up. Great work everyone, class is dismissed. Charlotte walked to the cafeteria when Houston came running to her, following behind her. They went to their table with their food in hand, then sat down to enjoy. Ain was already there waiting for the two. While they were eating, a girl who was a sophomore came up to the table. Hey, Ain cuts her off. No. She ran to her friend sobbing from rejection. What a cruel man, Houston said. Then a man approached Charlotte. No. He got cut off by Charlotte before he could even finish his word. The man walked off disappointed. Cruel woman. Both you are so cruel. Why don't I get confessions too? Houston said sulking. Not our fault, we're more attractive than you are, Charlotte says jokingly with sarcasm. I might not be on the same level of attractiveness as you two are, but I'm still hot. Whatever you say, Ain said. It's okay bro. You'll find a girlfriend soon. Charlotte tried to comfort him. You might have some luck on this year's Valentine's Festival, Ain said. There's a Valentine's Festival? Charlotte and Houston questioned. Yup. Wanna go together? Of course it's gonna be held on Valentine's Day, Ain asked. Am I gonna be a third wheel again? Houston asked with puppy eyes. No promises, they both said and ignored his eyes. It's a chance to attend a matchmaking date there, Charlotte said. Good point. How many days till Valentine's Day again? Houston asked. 6 days from now. It's on Saturday, Ain said. Ain finished his meal and patted Charlotte's head. It was a normal routine that started randomly. I don't get how you two aren't dating yet, Houston said. Well, I don't know either, Charlotte says as she gets up from her seat. Well, maybe I can prepare some chocolate for Ain. Does he even like chocolate though? Charlotte was gonna get him chocolate anyways, so it doesn't matter. 4 days later, when class ended, Charlotte hurried her assignments and scouting. She got dressed and hurried up onto a carriage to the Capitol. The Capitol was half decorated with Valentine's Day's decorations already and it looked amazing. Wondering what it would look like fully decorated, Charlotte was walking around and stopped at a chocolate shop. Charlotte browsed through different types of chocolate. She stumbled across a box of different kinds of chocolate with different flavors from citrusy to sweet. Miss, could I pick out these chocolates? Charlotte asks the woman working there while pointing at the chocolates she was eyeing. I see you bought the variety combo. Are you buying it for your lover? He's not my lover. Sure. Good luck. She's so full of optimism. Charlotte grabbed a bag of chocolates and smiled at the woman, then left the shop to go back to her own office. She ran to her office with a bag in her hand and luckily she arrived unnoticed. Her office had a mini fridge and she stored the chocolates in it, hiding the chocolates with an invisibility spell. Chapter 40. It was the day of the Valentine's Festival. It was currently noon. Charlotte was checking on her chocolates and stored the chocolate box in her small separate pouch. She put a spell on it to keep it cold. This was the day where people confess to each other wholeheartedly, a day where love blooms and new relationships arise. Charlotte went to the cafeteria to have her afternoon tea as she's saving her appetite for the festival's delicacies. She watched from her table. Girls from afar confessed to guys. It was delightful to see them getting accepted. Ain also sat at Charlotte's table. Charlotte felt a sudden chill down her spine and turned to Ain. He was staring at her with affectionate eyes. She averted her eyes hurriedly in embarrassment. Houston then came up to the both of them. Sorry guys, a really cute girl confessed to me and I'm going on a date with her. Guess you two will have to go alone. Oh, I see. Well then okay, Ain says. Well, that just makes me plan easier, Charlotte thought to herself. Have fun with your little date, said Charlotte. It was evening and Charlotte was preparing for her outing with Ain. She wore cute white pants with a soft slight longer knee-length dress. She looked absolutely adorable. Any man would want to win her favor. Her pouch dangling like a purse on her shoulder. A knock from her door suddenly appeared. It was Ain. He looked very attractive. It was pleasing to the eye. He had a white suit on. His hair was messy. Any girl would fall head over heels for him if they saw this fine man. May I? Ain asks in a seductive tone, yet polite, holding his hand out requesting to escort her out the room. You may, Charlotte responds and places her hand on his. Walking out the door while walking down the stairs, both men and women were mesmerized by the two, jaws hung open. A truly gorgeous pair, they thought to themselves. They just smiled back. Imaginary arrows pierced through the hearts of the people looking. 2 angels sent down from the heavens. Of course it was expected. They both were gods themselves anyway. Their compatibility would probably be higher than the charts. Many couples also went to the Valentine's Festival. It's been long since a festival like this has been held. Upon arrival, they stepped out the carriage. Ain escorted Charlotte out. It was spectacular. It was decorated with balloon hearts, Cupid bow and arrows. So adorable. This play is so cute, said Charlotte. I agree, said Ain. They now genuinely entered the doors of the festival. A step-in was Wonderland. Stalls were set up everywhere. Different varieties of food, clothing, decorations and so on. Whoa! Charlotte exclaimed, dragging Anne along with her. Charlotte was starving as she had a small croissant and tea for lunch. The meat skewers were mouth-watering in her eyes, buying them along the way, shoving it in her mouth and chewing non-stop. It was delicious. There was gonna be a musical later on in the festival. The two got tickets and waited for the show. Finally, it was time for the show to start. It was a love song, as expected. The band performed beautifully. A piano, violin and both were singing. The melodious tune touched everyone watching's heart. After that, Anne bought Charlotte cotton candy that was shaped in a cute heart. How adorable. They went to a shady tree leaning on it while eating. The festival was coming to an end, they thought. Of course, Charlotte had one objective coming to this festival. She took out the chocolate box that was still cooled in her magic pouch, then handing it to Anne. I hope I'm not too late to accept your confession from 2 years ago, Charlotte says while averting her eyes. Some cotton candy gotten on Charlotte's cheek and Anne licked it off her. She was startled from this sudden move and froze, moving from her cheek to her lips, kissing her lips. He pulled back, lifting her up in the air from excitement. Of course. You have no idea how long I've waited for your response, he exclaims, pulling her in and embracing her. They shared a warm hug then pulled apart, slowly intertwining hands. They both were red, very red. Looking even feverish, two beasts joining paws averting their eye contact. They were definitely in the moment of love. Finally, after many years they decided to start dating. They returned back to their carriage to head back to their academy dorms. As they walk out, many people were staring at them seeing them holding hands. Houston had came up to the both of them. I assume it went well. Both of them nodded in embarrassment. Houston just chuckled. What a sweet sight. Congrats. Houston says. So, how did your date go? Charlotte asked, trying to change the subject. It could have went better. She dropped me for someone else. Damn, I feel bad for you. Yeah, Houston said, disappointed. Well, it's late now. We should head inside now. As they walked, more and more people stared at Anne and Charlotte, not realizing they were still holding hands going up the dorms. Realization hit them as they reached their separate dorm areas. They separate their hands, then waving to each other. They go back to their dorms. Charlotte went into the bathroom with clothes and a towel in her arms. Diving her face into the towel, she was flustered. She squealed in excitement. She completed her task successfully. A win-win for both of them. Charlotte got into the tub with warm water and lit up a candle as a reward for reaching her goal. The scent of the candle made Charlotte sleepy. She got up and dressed in her nightgown. Charlotte went to her room while Houston was just suspiciously smirking at Charlotte. She laid in her bed comfortably and dozed off with a smile on her face in victory. Chapter 41. It was the next morning. Charlotte woke up exhilarated as ever. She got dressed in a plain dress and headed downstairs for breakfast. Houston was already at their normal table and Charlotte went to grab food. She went over to her own table and sat. While Houston was chatting with Charlotte, a group of girls came up to Charlotte, a familiar face. The head of the Anne fan club. How pathetic. Charlotte Alpheus or whatever your name is. You better leave him or we won't back down. Charlotte ignored them and continued her conversation with Houston. Hey, I'm talking to you. Yeah, I know, I just don't care. Charlotte responds back, still not making eye contact with the girl. You bitch, the girl says as she pulls Charlotte's hair. What the actual fuck? Charlotte says. I'm not in the mood for your petty little fights. Charlotte pushes her to the ground. Know your fucking place. Anne was coming down the stairs and saw Charlotte standing while the girl was on the ground. He walked up to them hastily. What happened? He asked. She pushed me down. The girl said. Ha. That's because you pulled my hair for ignoring you, Charlotte said irritated. You good Char? Asked Anne. Yep. Hey, Anne, I'm your biggest fan. How could you ask her if she's fine or not but not me? The girl exclaimed. You might be my biggest fan but she's my girlfriend, he says as he pulls Charlotte's waist beside him. The girl yelled loudly, terrified. Their eardrums were gonna go deaf. Holy shit, Charlotte says as she shuts her mouth with mana. Yeah, we're dating. So you and your little club should disband. Charlotte scoffs. The girl got up sobbing and running away. People witnessed this scene and Charlotte just shook her head in disappointment. Come on guys, sit down and eat, Houston told them. Charlotte went back to her seat and ate while Anne went to get food. They had an enjoyable conversation. Do you have any plans? Charlotte, Anne asked. Nope. Great. So I guess I'm just the third wheel, huh? Houston says. Yup. I heard a new cafe just opened up in the capital. Shall we head there? Anne asked Charlotte. Sounds good. When are we going? 1 p.m. I'll pick you up from your dorm. Alright. I'll be waiting. Houston just looked at them with envious eyes. They both pitied him, but what could they do? Set a blind date? No. It was noon. Anne went to Charlotte's dorm and escorted her onto a nice carriage. They had a great conversation along the journey to the capital. They got out of the carriage and held hands. They looked like a lovely couple. They went to the newly opened cafe. Inside was a soft white and pink color with ribbon decorations hung up on the wall. They had a seat and looked at the menu. Charlotte was attracted to the dessert pictures while Anne just watched her in amusement. They both ordered 2 iced lemon teas and strawberry shortcake with an ice cream on top with sprinkles. When it arrived, Charlotte was on the edge of drooling. It looked scrumptious. Anne lifted his fork and got a small piece of cake on the fork. Charlotte thought he was gonna have the first bite, but instead his fork went to Charlotte's direction. He was trying to feed her. Of course she happily accepted and ate it. He let out a small laugh. How cute. He though while feeding Charlotte each piece of cake, a small amount of cream got onto her face and he wiped it off her face and licked the cream of his finger. Charlotte was also enjoying this moment with him, their first ever date. When they paid and went out, they saw a man running hastily while a woman was screaming. Charlotte realized it was a thief and threw her heel at the culprit. Headshot. The man fell to the ground instantly and blood started oozing out. What a gory scene. Charlotte hurried and got her heel and returned the purse to the woman. She thanked her and went off. You got a bloody heel now, Anne said. Velp. Anne grasped Charlotte's hand and dragged her to a shoe shop. Inside were luxuriously expensive heels. Charlotte browsed through the shoes and saw their price tags. She gasped. They were extremely expensive. Even a low-ranked noble wouldn't be able to afford these. Charlotte's eyes were wide open, shocked from the prices. Anne didn't mind paying that much though. He thought of it as a first date gift. Anne picked out a pair that fitted Charlotte very well and bought them. The packaging looked luxurious too. He then gifted the box in a bag to her. How much did it cost? Asked Charlotte curiously. You don't have to worry about it. I'm wealthy. Charlotte gets a hold of his hand and pulls him out of the shop to a clothing store that was a level higher of luxury. She picked out a matching outfit for the both of them, a soft blue dress and suit. She then went to pay for it. There. Now we're even. PFT. Their lovely date ended like that. They hopped onto the carriage and went back to their dorms. It was already evening. The three went down and ate dinner. They had ice cream as their dessert. What a day filled with sweets. They headed back to their separate rooms and slept for the rest of the night. Chapter 42. Months went by and before they knew it midterms were over. There were only a few months left before finals then graduation. The seniors were all excited as their school year would come to an end and achieve their dreams. Charlotte was the same as excited as they were. Although, something worried her. What will she do after she graduates? What does she really want to achieve? These questions left her restless for the rest of the afternoon. Usually after exams the upper ranks would give them a week to relieve their stress. It was a great refreshment for the students. As Charlotte got to her seat, sitting there was Houston and Anne. She opened the conversation with a random question. What will you guys do when you graduate? The two uttered nothing. It was complete silence. Were they questioning too? I guess I'm not the only one, Charlotte said smirking. They hurriedly changed the topic to something else. It was the daily talk of the area. Charlotte ate her noodles and excused herself. At her room, she finally decided what she was gonna do this free week. Visiting her home, the land of the gods. Charlotte was hyped as she packed her clothes. Afterwards she grabbed an ink pen and a piece of paper. From Charlotte. Hello. By the time you read this, I have went back to visit my home. You won't be seeing me this full week as I will probably be busy. Contacting me will also not be an option. So just forget my existence for a week and enjoy yourself, alright? She finished with her signature and used a book to set the piece of paper in place so it doesn't fly around. She then grabbed her luggage and went up to the rooftop. She chanted a spell and a beam of light landed straight in the middle. She stepped in and transformed back to her original form. She arrived in the entrance of her floating diamond castle. As she walked in, God stared at her in disbelief. Thinking they've lost their mind, The one who had disappeared suddenly came back and is walking the halls of her own palace right this moment. They thought it was a hallucination but couldn't keep their eyes off her. Charlotte then stepped in the office department made for the managers and advisors. It was located in the west wing of the palace where high-tiered gods roamed freely and doing their work of great importance. To her shock, the place was in complete chaos. Apparently they haven't been able to properly manage the things she used to do daily. No one noticed her presence. Everyone was frantic and worrying about their own thing. The gods of authorities were a mess. How long have they had to suffer through all this? She grabbed her magical staff and hit the ground hard with the end of the stick. Everyone there froze, facing her direction. The great Estella has came back. They all had a relieved look on their face. Some teary-eyed. Her disappearance 4 years ago led the gods to a shock, yet she returned. PFT, did you guys miss me? It's really her. Someone muttered out through the silence. It seems as I've not trained you all enough. How's everyone been doing since I've suddenly vanished? Some cried in joy while some were stunned with their eyes widened. Is this misery coming to an end? They thought to themselves. Some ran up to Estella suffocating her in embraces. It seems as if they had really missed her presence dearly. You guys shouldn't celebrate too early. I will be leaving in a week time. And now, I need my assistant immediately. Pile the paperwork on my desk this instant, Estella said while pointing at the short god staring at her from afar with paper in his hands. Estella leaves the room while her assistant trails behind with a bunch of paperwork floating on his hands. She arrives at her usual office. A feeling of nostalgia hit her hard in the head. She missed this room dearly. She would spend most her time diving herself in paperwork. She sits down hastily and she does the paperwork swiftly, observing them while moving her ink pen firmly and rapidly. Around 48 hours passed. She never noticed the time and had finished 2 years worth of paperwork that not even the god authorities could do with at least 10 people. Estella was in her normal body, so she never felt hunger nor dehydration. It felt normal. Her immune system was top-notch. As she left the room to the main balcony that towers over most the buildings, crowds cheered for her return. Word spreads fast here too. It was nice to be back. Familiarity came from this balcony as well. She would wave to her subjects every time she could get. A shock hit her and she finally realized what she would do after she graduated with enough knowledge. She will come back and rule once again. This time maybe her lover will accompany her. Estella gets on the edge of the balcony and falls off intentionally. Her angelic wings opened instantly as she fell. She landed on her feet slowly. She had already chosen what she was gonna do next. She would visit Talia and Julius. Estella teleported to a tall floating building. She said at a passcode only a few knew and the door immediately opened. She stepped in and was transported to a room. Inside was white marble and tiled floors. Tints of blue were also displayed everywhere in this well-decorated room. A man with slightly darkish skin and blonde hair stood up as he saw Estella, while a woman with pastel pink hair and gold eyes had tears flowing down her face. Julius and Alia were lovers that lived in the same building. As they saw Estella, they ran up to her. Even though 4 years were basically nothing for gods, it felt like forever since they've last seen her. It was good to be back to her original friend group. After they had a fragrant rose tea and chatted, they made plans to visit different realms like they used to. Chapter 43. As they hopped through different realms, they accidentally jumped into the monster realm. As gods are powerful, monsters are the same. They're opposite beings who are created to make balance. The universe had a hold of itself. Julius and Alia shivered in fear. On the other hand, Estella looked cold and expressionless. Everything she experienced in this realm were full of horror. She lost her dearest friend here. Ever since Estella fully awakened her eyes powers, she would come here to train with the risk of her soul corrupting. Every time she slay a monster, she would be reminded of the time her dear friend sacrificed himself for her. It was a revenge she couldn't let go for a long time, not even now. She felt guilty and went into a phase of stress and depression till she finally tried to forgive herself. Although she knows from the bottom of her heart she would never forgive herself. They saw dark figures from every angle charging them. Not wanting to ruin their fun day, Estella hurried and opened a different realm portal and pushed them in. following them. It was filled with mountains of different heights and sizes. They were at the highest peak of the mountains. They sat down and gazed at the beautiful view displayed in front of them. Estella remembered a bittersweet memory hidden in her longest memories. Ezekiel and Estella had jumped through their favorite different realms and vented out to each other, or just genuinely had a fun chat. Julius and Dahlia had insisted on going back as it was getting late. Estella stayed behind and sat quietly for a moment. She was finally alone. The light breeze gently hit her face and she let out a loud exhale. She then let out all the tears she has been holding in for a long time and cried till she was satisfied. She acted like a vulnerable child. It was rather embarrassing, but had lifted off a small burden that had been hidden deep in her heart. Her eyes were swollen. She felt relieved and glad that she was able to come back. She healed her swollen eyes and stood up determined. She then proceeded to hop back to the original God realm. The shining moon shone brightly. Stars were scattered in the night sky. She headed back into her own palace and had a delightful meal. Afterwards, she returned to her chambers for a soundless sleep. Her face seemed more relaxed. The next morning, Charlotte woke up and stretched her arms. She had a comfortable sleep and went to dress. Today, duty calls. Estella had to greet the officials and discuss about handling matters. She wore a white button-up shirt with a black suit. She looked like an entrepreneur. Estella walked off into the main meeting room where the officials have already gathered up in. They all had a serious expression on their faces. They started discussing realms' different affairs and how monsters kept getting through the barrier. Estella had assigned people to enhance the world's barrier. They then went on about producing new items and constructing more buildings. Some agreed and some disagreed with different ideas. They were all into this long meeting. The meeting finally ended and plans have finally been set. Estella got out of the meeting room and let out a huge sigh in relief. She then went to do her normal duties of paperwork and greeting more of the higher-ups. Firstly, she went to her office to complete mountains of paperwork. She swiftly finished them in a few hours. Next, she visited buildings that belonged to higher ranks and made plans with each and every one of them. It hit midnight. Time really flies. Although gods didn't have to consume food or water, they still did for the fun of it. Plus they were tasty. Estella went over to a bar built in pleasure of the gods and eyes landed on her. She sat as she orders a large glass of beer. She drowned herself in drinks and spent the lasting hours chatting with different gods. She was on the verge of being unconscious. She reached her limit. Not wanting to pass out in the bar, she hurriedly teleported to her palace and went back her room. A boring day indeed, but at least she got things done like a normal ruler would. She had dozed off already without noticing. It felt natural. She let go of her worries as she has already done everything she should have. The following day she just wanted to enjoy her time back home. She went to the huge town and browsed through different shops, greeting familiar faces along the way. They were very surprised and happy to see her. There was a god many called the god of abhor. He was filled with hatred and loathed everyone in his path. He aimed for the throne and power numerous times. Of course everyone disapproved of this matter. Even if he was to team up with the greedy gods stripped of their titles, they still wouldn't be able to fight the crazy amount of other gods. He accidentally stumbled across Estella while at the town. He loudly announced, "Estella Deville, battle me for the throne." "No," Charlotte responded, irritated. "Are you afraid of me? I don't need to be afraid of insolent gods like you who only crave power. I doubt you would have others supporting and approving your rise to the throne. You are not fit as the highest tiered god. Back down." Those words shook his anger and rage rose from within him. Of course, no one wanted to be pathetically looked down on, especially mocked. A god like him possessed the power of shadows and he summoned them to capture Estella. She noticed shade and clouds of black were surrounding her. She immediately understood what was happening. Estella was a person who possessed many mighty powers. One of those were the power of light. She quickly surrounded herself with rays of light to clear the shadows. They retreated instantly in fear. Charlotte turned her head back slightly, just enough to see her eyes. "A god of greed will never be able to surpass me." A good leader would risk their souls for their citizens, not sit there idly and flex their tyranny. Think again when you say that I'm afraid of you. I'm just saving you from a person like myself. It's you who's gonna suffer from my wrath once I reveal it. Charlotte spoke, making the god of abhor tremble before her. She walked off and enjoyed the rest of her day trip. Chapter 44. It was a Sunday. Estella had packed up all her things and advised her staff before she bid farewell. They all had a group hug and Estella hopped back into the beam of light and returned to the academy rooftop. She had transformed back into Charlotte's body after arriving. She went down the steps from the rooftop, then back into her dorm room where she saw Houston. Houston asked from the sofa, "Where did you go?" "I went to visit somewhere. Now I'm back. I need to unpack since classes are gonna reopen tomorrow." Charlotte went to her room and unpacked her things and jumped onto her soft bed. She was exhausted. A knocking sound rang her ears and she shouted, "Come in." The person opened the door and jumped onto Charlotte, hugging her. It was Ain. He had missed her after not seeing her for a week since he was also busy visiting his family as well. They were now cuddling in a comfortable position where Charlotte's face was against his chest and his head was on top of hers, laying sideways on her bed. They spent a few hours on her bed napping. Charlotte arose from her bed. She felt a grumble from her stomach as her hunger intensifies. Charlotte hasn't been taking care of her own body since she always used divine power to cover it up. Ain had woken up from the sudden movement of Charlotte and agreed to head down for some cake and tea. They were at their own private table with jasmine tea and strawberry shortcake. Ain opened. "So have you decided what you're gonna do after graduation?" "Well, since I've been exposed as a goddess already, I might go back to the god realm and spend my time there ruling again." Ain dropped his fork he was using. He paused for a second and Charlotte noticed. "Are you surprised? I mean, aren't you a god yourself? You can come too, right?" "Ah, well yeah." They finished eating. Charlotte went back to her dorm to sleep as class starts tomorrow. It was the next morning and they had already went to class. They were surprised it wasn't Professor Hemsworth teaching them. "Hello students, I'm Professor Eldon. I am the former captain of the 1st Imperial Knight Order. I have retired and is gonna start teaching you all for the rest of the rest." Professor Hemsworth has decided to resign as his health was in the red for now. The students were confused but accepted him as the new professor. "So, does anyone want to volunteer themselves and spar with me?" No one spoke. It was complete silence. Some students turned to Charlotte's direction and she just looked at them with a confused expression. "You." The professor pointed at Charlotte. "Me? Yeah, you." "Professor, don't," someone exclaimed from the crowd. "Interesting. Is this woman over here a weakling? He sure has guts to say that about me when he hasn't even fought." "No. I'm just afraid for your well-being. You might die," the student added. The professor was shocked from his comment. He turned to face Charlotte and flames were in her eyes. She was pissed. "It's on," she declares and takes out her sword. She was ready to destroy this ignorant and arrogant professor. Students were watching in excitement while the two stepped in the battlefield. The battle commenced. The professor charged at Charlotte with maximum speed while enhancing his mana energy, infusing it into his sword. His aura was also leaking while at it. Charlotte stood there calculating his speed and mana energy. As the professor was about to hit Charlotte, she quickly slid under and caught him off guard and knocked his back with the sword's surface so it didn't pierce into his body. The professor fell down and Charlotte pointed her sword to his neck. The students cheered for Charlotte's victory. "Don't underestimate someone when you haven't fought them." Charlotte glared at the professor, then walking away to get water. "Nice going there, Char," Houston said. "He was boring and weak. I don't understand how he got to be a professor with that attitude anyway," she said while gulping down water. "Let's get to lunch now, I'm bored and hungry." They walked to lunch and grabbed their food to their table. A professor was showing Professor Eldon around the academy and he spotted Charlotte. He went up to her angrily. "Hey you." Charlotte ignored him and continued eating while staring at Houston, giving him an irritated signal. "Did your parents not teach you how to respect elders? I'm older than you, you hag." The professor suddenly swung a punch to Charlotte. Everyone was startled. Luckily, Charlotte stopped it in time. Charlotte lifted him and threw him to the ground. "Look, I really don't care if you're the captain of the 1st Imperial Knight Order. To me, that is nothing. Just because you're a captain doesn't mean you're allowed to have that egoistic attitude. Humble yourself." Charlotte went back to her seat and ate while another professor dragged Professor Eldon's body away. "Damn, since when were you this cool?" Houston asked jokingly. "When am I not?" Charlotte said, smirking. The two finished their meals and went to the student council room. Ain was already sitting on the chair waiting for them. "I heard what happened to the new professor." It was his fault. It sure was interesting indeed. Shall we discuss about today then? Alright. The three sat and discussed about certain things and went to scout the area like usual. Chapter 45. Several months went by and it was a week before graduation. Professor Eldon has started respecting students more and keeping his ground. The seniors were on their week break before graduation day. It seems as our class year is gonna end soon. We're gonna graduate at Atlas, Charlotte said while spinning her pen. I guess so, Houston replied with his legs crossed on the table. I'm bored. Ain joined. Should we go on a trio trip? I heard there's a boat trip to an island tomorrow. We can get tickets if we're lucky enough, Houston suggested. Sure. Well, we better hurry and get them before they run out. 3 tickets it is. Charlotte disappeared into thin air and came back in an instant with 3 tickets in hand. So, shall we get packing? Yeah. They went back to the separate room to gather tropical clothing and daily necessities for tomorrow's trip. It was the next day and they requested a few days off from the academy. The 3 had gathered in front of the academy building and entered the carriage to the dock destination where they gave the tickets into the worker. The 3 were standing in front of the ship ready to board. Whoa, impressive indeed. After the 3 got onto the ship, they laid their items in their room as they'd need a day to arrive at their destined destination. It was a 3-person room. It was only midnight till they heard random banging noises on the ship. They ran outside to check at the commotion only to find out a bigger ship has aimed for them. To make matters worse, it was raining. Are they pirates? Houston asked. How would I know? Charlotte replied. We didn't even bring our swords, Houston said. Ain and Charlotte looked at each other, then back at Houston. Houston looked confused. You suddenly forgot that 2 gods are on board, huh? Charlotte said while face-palming. Ain and Charlotte ran up to the intruders and they noticed. The group of pirates' moves were fast but not fast enough. There were 11 intruders on the ship. Their leader was easy to spot out of the bunch. He wore a fancier pirate suit with a hat. Charlotte took 5 and Ain took the other 5, dealing with the leader later. A moment later, they easily tied each group of 5 to the pole. They then went up to the startled leader. Charlotte grabbed him by the collar. State your business. Please don't hurt me. That's not what I asked for. Why did you barge into our vacation ship? My crew just wanted to have the treasures to ourselves. Throw them into the sea? Ain suggested. Let's just throw them back to their ship. We can throw them into the sea if they try and intrude again. Each of them grabbed 2 at a time and threw them back to their ship. Once everyone was back they hurried up and fled. Well, that was boring. Their ship started to move again and the 2 went back to their room, Houston following. They went to sleep. It was the next morning, a person knocked on their door and it woke Houston up. He went to check and it seems that they have arrived at their destination. Okay. He walked towards the 2 and woke them up. They packed up their luggage and went off the ship. There was an amazing resort in front of them. The 3 were captivated. They went to check in and went to their room. Whoa! They jumped on their own beds in excitement. They were at the all-you-eat buffet that was located in the resort. Their eyes sparkled with joy as they picked out different mouth-watering delicacies. They sat and ate happily. Their mood went down when Prince Louis showed up at their table. They all looked displeased with his arrival. Hey Charlotte. Hey. What brings you here? We're just having a trip before graduation. I see you guys are enjoying your time here. Yeah. Till you showed up. Ain inaudibly mumbled. Well, I'll see you. Alright. The awkward tension dropped when he left and they enjoyed the rest of the day just relaxing and taking a break from the world. There's a climb to the mountains and an extra hunt along the way tomorrow. Do you guys wanna participate? I don't see why not. Let's sign up. Okay. They went to the booth and signed up. The person assigned their groups. You 3 are in Group D with 2 others people and a special trained guide. We will assign you all with some weapons when you hunt wild animals. The person gave wristbands to the 3 for tomorrow's climb and hunt. It was the next day. They got dressed up in pants and shirts fit for adventures. They gathered up at the group's supposed area. There were 4 groups and A, B, C and D. They were the last group. Hello, I'm your guide. Elmer. Hi. I'm Liz. TJ. Alright, here are your bows and blades. Use them wisely. They all nod in agreement. Then they listen to the guide list the rules. Okay, since I'm done with the rules, let's go. It takes around 5 hours to fully climb this mountain, so be ready. Okay. They gathered boar heads and rabbit heads along with some common animals' heads. It was a brutal scene, but they coped with it. They were 1/4 to the mountaintop. Chapter 46. They were scattered around in a square 30 feet wide. Suddenly, they all heard a scream and ran to direction it was coming from. They all saw Liz on the ground, startled on the floor, attempting to crawl from the ferocious tigers surrounding her. The guide was in a trance, as it's been his first time to see the many threatening animals all at once. Charlotte, lead them. I will distract the beasts. Anne and Houston will accompany me and we will slaughter them. TJ, once the animals are away from Liz, you grab her and run to the guide. Are you all clear? They all nodded and took action. Firstly, Charlotte ran and did hand motions, distracting the animals. They started chasing after her. With her immense speed, she was able to outrun them. Anne and Houston, on the other hand, cut their heads from behind, ending their lives one by one. Soon enough, all of them were dead. They did a 3-way high five and went back to the group. TJ and Liz were already together with the guide. Liz, you good? Asked Charlotte. Yeah, thanks. All right. Let's continue our climb and hunt. I will win this competition no matter what, you hear me? They continued the climb while hunting animals at the same time: monkeys, bears, boars, foxes, and so on. They finally reached the mountain summit. There was a refreshing breeze on top and they enjoyed the rest of the time there, having a nice picnic and chatting about themselves. After they had their rest, they came back down and kept hunting for more. They were finally back down after a long journey. They were the last ones back, but it was worth it. Their sacks of bloody heads towered above the rest, and the group won the hunt. They each had an exclusive pass to have dinner with the island owner. Everyone was hyped by this and got dressed up in nice clothes. They arrived at the private booked restaurant and sat. Plates of food came one by one. The owner finally arrived. He wore a fancy white suit and sat at the table. Houston, Charlotte, and Anne were all stunned. Louis, the Prince of Wing Night. Greetings, winners of the hunt. Maybe I shouldn't have tried this hard, Charlotte mumbled to herself. Hi, Liz said. Call me Louis. Hi Louis. All right, let's enjoy our food, Louis announced. It was a quiet table. Only TJ, Liz, and the guide spoke to Louis. The other three were quietly eating their meal. There's a public dance tomorrow night. Would you all like to join? 3 nodded excitedly while the other 3 were hesitant about it, but still nodded in agreement, as they couldn't be rude, especially when the owner is also royalty. Great. It was the next morning and they were going on a morning stroll on the beach. The sun was bright and it was a great day. They went to a stall set up beside the beach. The 3 sat down for juice. Yum. Shall we explore around the island? Sure. Although it was a tropical island, there were still buildings all over the place, from restaurants to clothing shops. It was different from what they would see in the capital. The island was owned by the Prince of Wing Night, so the shops and stalls were similar to Wing Night. They sat in the dessert shop and had some delicious coconut pudding and chocolate on the side. It was nighttime and there was a dance in the main beach area. Charlotte was getting some drinks. When she turned around, she saw some women surrounding Anne. It was clear they were flirting with him. He looked annoyed though. Hey, he has a girlfriend, you know, Houston said. Wanna bet she's not as pretty as me? One of the women said. What are you doing around my boyfriend? Charlotte said. The women turned around to see an ethereal beauty in front of them with a white floral-length dress, with the lower part of her dress semi-transparent and elegant sleeves. The full moon was aligned with her and shined around her, an extremely appealing goddess. They were speechless. Are you gonna answer me? The atmosphere suddenly turned cold and eerie. What was once bestowed in front of them, a beautiful innocent goddess, became a frightening beauty that could rip their heads apart if wanted. We're sorry. The women ran away scared. Am I that scary? Charlotte asked. Yes, both Anne and Houston said in unison. Here are your drinks. She hands them out and they all cheer for the small trip. They drank a bit and danced with the other tourists. They all had a blast and danced to the music for the rest of the lasting hours. They were all drained when they went back to their room. They slept like absolute pigs. It was the final day and they packed up all their stuff to go back to their academy. They board the ship once more to return back. As it takes a day, they get their own room to sleep in. Charlotte goes outside to admire the waves and sea. The waters were clear and you could see little fishes swimming. Charlotte was lucky enough to see a dolphin jump up and she clapped excitement. And why are you clapping? Anne asked from behind. I saw a dolphin. It was a nice sight. I see. Ain went from behind and hugged her waist and placed his head on her shoulder. Charlotte was startled by this sudden movement and stiffened her body. Her face was redder than a tomato. A moment later they held hands and went to wake Houston up for dinner. They went to the ship's food area and had some gourmet chicken. They went back to their room and slept soundly for the rest of the night. Chapter 47. They had already left the ship and returned back to the academy. It was a day before graduation. The seniors were nervous but excited as they will finally be freed. The student council also took part in helping the staff team to touch up for the graduation ceremony. Diplomas were labeled and set in their supposed places to give out. Chairs were set up for the parents of the graduates and teachers were preparing their speeches and congratulations. It was chaos but they managed to complete the task. They were exhausted from helping out and tried to sleep for the night, although it was quite impossible for Charlotte as she will be one of the people graduating tomorrow. However, the trip did ease her mind before the upcoming graduation. It was the day of graduation. Charlotte didn't sleep a wink as she was energized the whole night. It was fortunate how she still had the energy for the rest of the graduation ceremony. The seniors all had convocation sets on. Parents were sat separately in front of the stage while the seniors were somewhere beside. The headmistress first gave a speech. Greetings parents. Thank you all for gathering here to witness your children graduate from ZZUO Academy. I am proud of all the students that stand here today graduating. Each of them had to go through many different difficult trials to get to here today. Now, I will let the vice principal to start her speech. After many different speeches, students started going up the stage one by one receiving their own diplomas and going back down. It was finally Charlotte's time to receive hers. She stood up and head up stage. Once she head up, she looked down and saw the Villainous family, Mabel, Damon, and Ain. Her friends all had smiles plastered on their faces while the family just stared at her with a neutral expression. She received her diploma and the headmistress gave her a hug. The headmistress was proud and somewhat sad at the same time as one of her favorite students would be leaving the academy but glad as she has came this far. She went down and students started following up to the stage. Once everyone was done receiving their diplomas, they all gathered up into the assembly main hall to sing the Academy's anthem and pay their respects. After all was done, people went into their own separate friend groups to have one final hug in the Academy. Charlotte had many of her disciples come up to her embracing her emotionally. They wished her the best of luck and so did she. A lot of hugging later, Charlotte was free from the groups and went to her own private one where Houston and Ain were waiting. The trio had finally finished school and had a group hug then a three-way high five to finish off. The ceremony ended peacefully and successfully. Although they finished their classes at the academy, some stayed to either help cleaning up or just get ready to go back home. Charlotte was one who stayed back to pack. Asher had already gone home with the Duke Alpheus as he already finished packing a while ago when she was on her trip. She was going to stay in the human realm for a bit before she returned back to the god realm. She still wanted to enjoy her time here. It was the next day and Charlotte had gotten ready and packed up all her things. She first bid farewell to the headmistress and had a small conversation with Ain, making sure she would meet him daily when they both had time like genuine lovers. After that, she hopped onto the carriage and went back to the Duke Alpheus estate. She was greeted by the maids, butlers, the Duke, the Duchess and Asher. Amelia was not there as she was still attending classes in the academy. She had gone into her room and saw piles of letters on her desk. She unpacked and tidied up her room then went to check the mountain of letters. They were a bunch of marriage proposals and tea party invitation. This many letters in 2 days? Also do they not know I have a lover? Charlotte sighed and started declining the marriage proposals. She did browse through the tea party invitations to check out who invited her though. To her surprise, Lilith White still had the audacity to invite her. This time, she accepted the invitation. There would be a motive to this invitation, right? Unless she just wanted to make up, which is probably unlikely. The tea party date was held 2 days later, meaning she would have enough time to pick out a trending outfit. Charlotte just wanted to rest for the entire day as she was exhausted. She jumped onto her bed. She missed the nostalgic feeling of the soft bed and dozed off. It was the next afternoon. Charlotte was sitting in her private tea party room reading a book while sipping on tea. She also had some cakes and desserts. After a while of relaxing, she decided that she was gonna go to the capital to buy an outfit. She wore a plain dress and a money pouch in her hand and walked to the capital. It was near winter, so the weather was chilly. The fashion trend going around was fur coats. She went to a boutique and picked out a baby blue fur coat. It was fit for occasion. It was pretty and elegant. She paid for it and went back to the Duke estate. She then picked out a white dress to match with the baby blue fur coat and cute white sparkly dangling earrings. She hung the outfit in her closet for tomorrow. She went to the library afterwards and enjoyed her time reading different varieties of books. Chapter 48. It was the next afternoon. Charlotte wore her outfit and went to the Marquis estate. It was visually smaller than the Duke estate but still looked grand. A butler escorted her to the place where the ladies were gathered. Charlotte feels as if something's off. She takes a seat and they all start talking. There were 4 ladies that sat at the table excluding herself. Lilith White, only daughter of Marquis White. Millie Mells and Mole Mells, the daughters of Baron Mells. Penelope Ilst, daughter of Viscount Ilst. Miss Charlotte, I've heard so much about you, Penelope said. Is that so? Charlotte felt all the ladies staring at her. That's when she realizes that none of the ladies were drinking the tea. They were staring at her teacup. She knew right away that someone messed with the tea. Do they think I'm a fool to fall for such old class tricks? Shall we have a toast for today's gathering? Lilith announced. They all nodded and cleaned their teacups, then put them up to their mouths. Of course, none of them drank it. They all just stared at Charlotte, waiting for her demise. Charlotte fake drank the tea and pretended to faint on the floor slowly. The 4 women stared at her with wicked smiles. They all closed up to face her. Suddenly, Charlotte opened her eyes and kicked the first person she saw. She stood up and started slapping the other ladies till they fell to the ground. Afterwards, she brushed her hands in victory and warned, "Your petty tricks won't work on me. Next time you ever try harming me, I won't guarantee you will live next time we cross paths. Oh, and also, if you ever mention this to anyone else, I'll take your heads." Thanks for the short tea party. I'll get going now. Charlotte walked away from the scene and hopped back onto the carriage. "You're back, miss?" the driver asked. "Yeah. It's just a small meetup. Can you take me to the capital? I have to meet up with somebody else." "Alright." After arriving at the capital, Charlotte got out and saw Anne in the cake shop. She went in and sat. "Sorry, I had to deal with some people." "It's alright." They ordered some cakes and macaroons along with some iced teas and chatted. "I've been getting a lot of marriage proposals. They won't stop no matter how much I try to tell them I have a partner." "I see. Well, should we get married?" Charlotte dropped her fork and turned incredibly red. "Hey, how are you gonna propose out of the blue like that? You don't even have a ring, plus I have standards for proposals," Charlotte exclaimed angrily while embarrassed. PFT. Noted. They changed their topic and continued talking about what they've been doing the past days. They were enjoying their conversation while people looked at the couple with envious eyes. They ended their date with a delightful peck on the cheek. Charlotte returned back to the Duke estate and rested for the night. The next day the Duke gathered them to have a family meeting. "So?" Charlotte questioned with her legs crossed on the sofa. "We received an invitation from the royal family. There will be a ball being held for the Crown Prince Elijah's time to take over the throne. The ball will be held 2 months from now. No one is allowed to miss it." Charlotte just nodded, stood up and left the main living room to do her own things. They didn't need to rush since it's in 2 months after all. Charlotte wanted to prepare early so she didn't need to do it last minute. She called a carriage to the capital and went dress shopping. She ordered the most elegant and most high-pleasing dress she could find. The price wasn't a problem as she has the Duke's bank account backing her up. It was a cornflower blue dress accompanied by a lace corset and beautiful sleeves. She also set up some butterfly earrings with white pins as accessories. A week later Charlotte decides to visit Houston. Although she never got Houston's address. However, she did remember that he was a noble. Houston Laurel, the son of a baron. She called over a carriage to the Laurel estate. It was a rather small building compared to others, but it still looked cozy. She got off the carriage while standing in front of the building with a bag of desserts in her hand as a gift. A butler came to her and escorted her into the building to meet Baron Laurel and Baroness Laurel. She apologized for the random visit and they called over Houston to the living room. Charlotte laid down the treats she brought and a conversation started. "You must be Charlotte. We met before, right?" the Baroness asked. "Aha, I remember. Thank you for letting me in, madam." "It's no problem. Our son's friends are always welcomed. So why'd you come? Asked Houston. I mean, I haven't seen you since graduation. I thought I'd drop by to have a little chat with you. His parents excused themselves to let Charlotte and Houston have their own time. Has your family been invited for the ball in 2 months? Of course. Every noble will attend and every citizen will watch. I see. Have you thought about what you're gonna do since you graduated? I've already thought about it. I was invited by the Royal Knights. I mean, it pays well, so I probably will join. How are things going with Ain? Anything spicy happened? Me and Ain are doing pretty well. He asked me to marry him out of the blue though. Houston spat out his tea in shock. What? You said yes, right? I have standards for proposals, so I declined for now, plus it was so sudden. Villainous, shut up. You can't say nothing about relationships when you're single yourself. I'll get a girlfriend eventually. Watch me. Good luck, buddy. They had a nice chat and laughed for hours. After it was evening, Charlotte waved to Houston and went back to the Duke estate. Chapter 49. Charlotte and Ain were going on a date in a different town that Ain insisted on going together. The cleansed town. They were holding hands while walking around the front arrival area. Ain seemed to know this place. Charlotte just stared at Ain's glistening eyes. Ain noticed and smiles. Are you staring? You seem to know this place. Well, yeah, I do. That's why I brought you here. I used to come here all the time when I was little. I see you know your way here, huh? Correct. Ain sees a building in the distance and runs up to it while dragging Charlotte along with him. Hey, wait. Ain knocked on the door and an old lady came out. Her eyes got teary when she saw him and welcomed him in along with Charlotte. There were toys, books and pillows everywhere. Charlotte assumed it was an orphanage as kids came running in from the yard. Some jumped on Ain in excitement. The lady excuses the children and they take a seat at the table. Ain, it's been so long since I've seen you. I haven't seen you in the last 4 years. The lady exclaimed. Sorry, Miss Ophelia, I was busy with classes. The old lady was really sweet. Are you dating Ain, young miss? Ah, yes, Charlotte says with a smile and as polite as possible. Well, I hope I raised Ain right and he treats you like an angel. Are you Ain's caretaker? You're right, I took care of him when he was a child. I used to be his nanny till I retired. Oh, I see. I need to make food for the children. I assume Ain wants to show you around. Have fun, kids. Thanks, Miss Ophelia. Ain walked over to a certain room, Charlotte following him. The room opened. Inside, a boy sulking on the floor. His face was red and he looked irritated. Isaac. Ain spoke. Who? Ain. Are you in time out again? You haven't changed since the last 4 years. Isaac jumps onto Ain, bringing him to the floor. Where did you go? He exclaims, sobbing. Sorry for leaving, buddy, Ain says as he gets up with Isaac swinging in his arms. Did you break something? Ain asked. A vase, Isaac said, slowly averting his eyes. Food's ready. A voice called from outside the room. You should go eat. Are you not gonna come with me? I have an appointment with someone. Who? Your girlfriend? Like you leverage? Charlotte came from behind Ain and waved to Isaac with a smile on her face, releasing her beauty. Whoa, you actually do. Isaac's mood lightened after seeing an angel in front of him and sprinted off to the dining room. Afterwards, they excused themselves and left the orphanage. They gave the children hugs and offered some money to Miss Ophelia. They went to a restaurant booked under the name of Ain Elrod. Inside was more of a commoner vibe than a fancy restaurant made for nobles, although Charlotte didn't mind as it was a cozy and comfortable environment for her. Food on plates came in one by one, set on their table: roasted chicken, baked potato, side dishes, etc., as well as some drinks. Charlotte's eyes shined bright as she ate. She felt satisfied after finishing her meal. Next, Ain dragged her to a garden. It was beautiful, flowers blooming everywhere. In the center was a beautiful blossom tree blooming as leaves fell down. They were sitting against the tree hand in hand, looking at each other with affectionate eyes. Suddenly, Ain turns into his god form. Remember how I told you to remember me? Yeah, I never quite got what you meant. Ha. I see. Ain averts his eyes from hers and the back of his head pressed against the trunk of the tree. His voice came out as humming. A tune maybe? How? Charlotte thought to herself. Her eyes widened as she recalled a moment she spent with Ezekiel. Flashback. Estella tilde. Ezekiel called. Estella didn't respond. She was peacefully playing the harp. It was a melodious tune that sounded angelic. Ezekiel accompanied Estella. They were sitting on a rock platform. Ezekiel just stared at Estella playing her harp. He started humming while matching the song. Nice humming skills as a. Are you pitying me cause you're better at instruments? What when did I say that? She says and smacks his back. They both start laughing, then continuing their duet. Ain is Lorenzo. And he is Ezekiel, huh? Lorenzo. Ezekiel. She mumbles. Her eyes widened as she hears shattering ringing in her ears. Memories form while Alia and Julius's spell break. She remembers Ezekiel's face. She takes a good look at Lorenzo's face and realizes. Charlotte takes a few blinks while staring at him. He just smiles. Lorenzo Ezekiel, his full name. Ezekiel, she whispers. Tears roll down her face in shock. He pulls Charlotte's head and puts it against his chest, letting her tears roll down, sobbing. After she stopped crying, her eyes were swollen and she covered her face with her hands. Why didn't you visit me these past few million years? Let me explain. When the monster devoured me, my soul was able to regenerate and transfer into human bodies since I was an S-rank god just like you. I spent years trying to maintain my god form, which I did, but then I went to the god realm. However, I couldn't find you at all since everything changed. I found information about you being the new ruler of gods and I was shocked myself. There was no right time to meet you as you were so busy. That night when we met at the royal palace, I knew right away that you were Estela. I tried so hard to get close to you. Then we met at the cotton candy stall. I'm sorry for not noticing sooner. They put a spell on you, didn't they? Julius and Alia. How did you? That's one of my special abilities. I'm so glad you remember me. Took you long enough. Ain stands up and lifts Charlotte up at the same time, pulling her in for an embrace. Their faces pulled apart and both smiled at each other. This shocking news lightened up the mood and lifted Estela's worries. Chapter 50. 2 months go by. Charlotte and Ain's bond became closer. Now, they call themselves by their old nicknames although they were still in human bodies. It was the day before the big ball and crowning ceremony. They went out to buy an outfit for the ball for Ain so they could match. Keel. Over here. Ella, you realize Ezekiel's my last name, right? He says as he walks to Estela. Well, I've gotten used to it. Your fault for not telling me your full name years ago. She says and shrugs. Now come on, we need to buy you a white extravagant suit for the once in a lifetime ball. As a human, of course. Unless you want to transfer your soul again. Well, if I do, you will accompany me, won't you? Who knows? She grabs his hand and drags him to a fancy expensive boutique. Inside were nobles browsing through the suits for tomorrow's banquet. A suit caught his eye and he went to check it. It was a white suit with a blue tinted white arrows as an accessory. It was a perfect match to Estela's dress. It was also neat and striking. Estela also approved of his decision in clothing. They went to the pay for the suit. It was exceedingly expensive, as expected. However, they were able to pay for it as they were rich after all. The next day came. Cheers came from all over Dianli. A new generation of Dianli will uncover. The citizens were all excited for the upcoming crowning ceremony later today. It was set. First, the citizens crowded the paths to the royal palace. Sounds came from the back as we watched the parade go forward, marching to the palace. A carriage was being surrounded by guards as they marched. Inside of the carriage was the crown prince. Atlas. They have reached the palace gates. They entered the palace and closed the gates. Moments later, 2 figures stood at the highest balcony. It was the crown prince, Elijah, and the current king of Dianli. The king speaks, using magic to enhance his volume. Dear citizens, it is a new era as I am now going to let my son reign over the kingdom of Dianli. I hope he gains your respect and earns your trust, as the citizens are what makes us royalty. He will go through many successes and failures. Truthfully, I really do hope he becomes a man that will be someone you all can look up to. Now shall the actual crowning ceremony commence. 2 other figures show up at the balcony, their hands with fancy cushions, one with an orb and the other with the royal scepter. The 2 figures hand over the items to the crown prince for him to take. Then, the king takes off his crown and puts it on his son. It is complete, he announced. Cheers started forming. It was loud and lively. It turned evening. Ezekiel had arrived at the Duke estate to escort Estella to the banquet. Emilia had her brother escort her as the prince officially annulled the engagement with her. She moved on. Ezekiel and Estella had matching white and blue outfits. They entered an elegant carriage to the palace. As they stepped foot into the royal palace, lavish decor were presented everywhere. The state of the palace would cost a fortune. Although it was predictable, It was the former crown prince, which is now the current king after all. You can't expect no less than this when a crowning banquet is held. As the first song was played, the couple danced gracefully on the dance floor. They danced like swans, a natural loose dance that looked enjoyable. After a few more dances, they were exhausted and went out for a slight stroll in the royal garden. Ezekiel turned to his god form. Estella followed and turned to her god form as well. Two majestic beings standing in front of the flowing fountain while the moon perfectly aligned with them. Ezekiel picked up a white rose and placed it in Estella's hair while putting her hair behind her ear. "This is where we first met when you were in Charlotte's body. You ran up to me, didn't you?" Estella says as she faced the fountain, averting eyes from him. "Estella," Ezekiel says as she turns around to see him standing beside her. A beautiful ring in a box. It was a gold ring with 5 small diamonds on the side and 1 heart-shaped diamond in the middle. It was truly stunning. The diamonds glistened as the moonlight shone onto them. "Will you marry me?" Not as Ain Elrod, no, but as Lorenzo Ezekiel. Estella jumped onto Ezekiel. He was shocked but accepted her embrace. "Of course," she exclaimed while happy tears run down her face. Wedding bells rang in the God Realm Royal Church. Sat on the seats were Houston, Mabel, Damon, Julius, Alia and more. The humans were given a special access spell to the God Realm. Julius and Alia were shocked and proud as they heard that Estella was getting married. Ezekiel, after not seeing him for years, they missed out on a lot. A tiny fairy was the flower girl. She threw petals on the red wedding carpet. Atlas, Estella was in a floral-length white wedding dress. The dress was even dragging on the floor as she walked down the aisle, a bouquet of white roses in her hands. Ezekiel was already standing there waiting for her, as nervous as ever. As she got to the end of the aisle, Ezekiel uncovered her veil as the priest let them proceed with their vows and final words. "You know, I never looked at any other girl the same the day I lost you. I'm so glad I'll be able to share my everything with you now, today, tomorrow and every other day." He started. "I stand here today because of you. I enjoyed every moment with you. You made me realize that I could give love a shot. Everything that happened between us will be held dearly in my heart. I hope I can spend my life with you happily forever." She ended. No one objected this wedding. They exchanged rings and gave each other an affectionate kiss on the lips. Finally, they were together again once more. That will continue for the rest of their lives. The end. End of Block 2.